Kyrou to Fowler. Fowler score! Cam Fowler ties the game. Power play goal, 4-4. Slapped around and out. Gaudette creates a 2-on-1. Fires it in, and he scores. It beat Hofer underneath the pad. One he would want to have back. And with 21 seconds to go, the Sharks have made it 5-4. Final face-off. They win it. Snuggerud shoots it. Oh, and that hit. Maybe Broberg in front, and the San Jose Sharks get the regulation win.
It's a lot of disappointment, hanging heads right now. So I love the way we kept fighting to get back in it. And in the end, we made too many mistakes.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that was a bummer, man. That one sucked.
That was a kick to the nards at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, it was so symbolic of the season. They play all right, and then they get their butts whipped for a little while. They had 5 shots in the first 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And then they find a way to make it interesting. And you're like, all right, they're going to at least get a point here. They're going to be in it, which is basically the story of the season. They're in it. I don't know if they're going to be really in it, but they're in it. And then, a pretty mediocre shot. Gets through on a guy that's been just an absolute stud for you all post-Olympic break with Joel Hofer. And it's a backbreaker, Alex.
Yeah. I felt for Hof because you saw his eyes when he looked behind him. And
Did
it
you
was
just call
like
him Hof?
Hof. Yeah. That's what his nickname is.
Yeah, I know.
Can I not call him Hof?
I don't think I've ever heard you call him that before.
We're tight with Hofs, When you get there,
I say hi
Did you
to
call
him.
him Hofs?
Yeah.
No, it's not plural. It's just Hof.
Okay, go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Anyway, you saw the look in his eyes, and he couldn't believe that one got past him. And it was a punch to the stomach. All you needed to do was to get to overtime to keep yourself in a better position. And I'm not sitting here saying that the E is next to their name in the standings. They're not eliminated. They're still only 4 points out, but your margin for error is now smaller because you didn't get that to overtime or a shootout. And it's just the way that goal happened. People aren't going to like what I'm going to say. They had some real crappy puck luck in that game last night. All 3 power play goals went off of either Logan Mayhew's leg or Cam Fowler's leg, and either into the net or right to a player. And that goal for Gaudette, it turned into a 2-on-1 because the puck bounced over Logan Mayhew's stick.
I'll go ahead and push back against that one. They created their own puck luck last night. When you have 5 shots on goal in the first 30 minutes of the game, you can't get upset when the puck ends up bouncing in your own net because the other team had the puck the entire first half of the game. I can't get upset,
but I also can't sit there and say they played a bad game defensively when the shot goes off of Mayhew's shin right to Wenberg, who's standing in the slot.
Oh, they were pretty terrible the first 30 minutes of the game.
I thought
it was pretty remarkable that they were even in it coming into the third period.
I don't think they were bad defensively in the first period. I think they were awful offensively in the first period and couldn't do any transition.
The fact that they couldn't get through the neutral zone, they're turning the puck over left and right. They were completely disconnected. It means that you're going to be stuck in your own end, which even if you're having a good game defensively, that's going to be really hard to come by. It's like an NFL team. If you're bad offensively to the point where it's just consistent 3 and outs, well, maybe your defense is getting a bunch of stops. You can only ask them to do so much. Eventually, the dam's going to break, and you're not going to be able to stop the puck from going in. So, I'm with you, Alex. I don't think they played necessarily a bad game defensively, but they were so bad offensively that eventually that puck's going to go in the back of your net. And yes, maybe it's puck luck, maybe it's bad defense, maybe it's bad goaltending. You can call it whatever you want. They created this.
Yeah. I look at it differently. They created it. They just... To me, it wasn't like a game that we saw in the first portion of the season where you look at it and you're like, oh, that team is awful. They pulled themselves back into it. I think the way that Montgomery framed it afterwards was they just didn't have any battle in them in the first period. Regardless how you felt about them in the game, it happened, and you let the one thing happen that can't happen, lose in regulation.
Yep.
Because you needed, in my opinion, to get to 88 points to give yourself a chance. Now, with a possible 18 points in front of you, you still need to get 15, which means you can't lose more than 1 game in regulation the rest of the way. So, and I guess if I want to take the stance on it as well, I also don't know if this is the worst thing in the world for the Blues.
What was your immediate reaction after the game last night?
Well, one, celebration that it wasn't going to overtime or a shootout.
Touche.
Mine was, I'm not going to have to make a playoff open this year.
I mean,
what did you look at first, the standings or the draft order?
Draft order.
Kind of the same thing. I just go to the league and then just click on it. You're like, oh, you're there, and then you're there.
Because I either go to the wild card standings on ESPN.com or I go to Tankathon to figure out where the standings are for the draft. My reaction after the game last night, I was curious if you guys did the same thing. I went to Tankathon because I was curious what that meant, because it had huge implications both for the draft and for the wild card standings last night, depending on what happened. And if you were going to lose that game, I know nobody wants to hear this today because we were all excited yesterday about the potential for playoffs. It was better to lose in regulation, much better to lose in regulation. For the draft standings, you are now all the way up to 5th. You right now are every bit as close to a top 3 selection, or at least top 3 best odds, as you are to a wild card spot.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about the Western Conference this year.
And see, I looked at it a little differently than that, too. Like, I think it might be beneficial for this team to miss the playoffs this year so that they realize that, hey, you can't just go on a magical run every year from March and April. Like, I do think there has to be some sort of come to Jesus moment for this team. And not saying that they wouldn't have gotten to it even if they made the playoffs, but I feel like you can't have this invincibility every season that feels like, well, we don't need to be perfect in October and November because we can make it up once we have our break and then come out of the gates and go on a run. Like, this is going to show them if you missed the playoffs by 2 points at the end of the season, well, look at what you did in October. Look at what you did in November. There's going to be a heavy emphasis from the coaching staff on training camp and preseason because there's so few preseason games next year that, like, hey, you got to bring the attitude that you play with in March and October if you want any chance at the playoffs. And the only way I think that's going to get through their heads on that is if you miss the playoffs rather than get in last minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said this for 3 of the last 4 seasons. You know, you can't win. You can't get to the playoffs in the early portion of the year, but you sure as hell can lose your spot in the playoffs in the early portion of the year.
Yeah.
And that's been the Blues for 3 of the last 4 years. Hell, the Cardinals have kind of had that at times in the past. They did that in 2023 when they kind of fell out of it right away. So, yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully, I felt the same way to where, like, when they lost that game last night, I was going, okay, hopefully this is finally the moment where it all clicks in. But I say that going, okay, they've done this 2 of the last 3 years, though, right? Like that year where they first fired Berube and brought in Drew Bannister, they went on another similar run to where they got close to the playoff picture, and it still didn't seem to click in for them then because, remember, last year they started off slow again and then needed the miraculous winning streak to get to the spot where they were, the playoffs.
Can we talk real quick about Macklin Celebrini? Because that guy is unbelievable.
Yeah, how do we get one of those?
I love watching that guy play hockey, man.
Luck.
He's my favorite player to watch. There are just certain guys that they have every intangible that you could ask for, along with all of the physical traits. Like, he's unbelievably skilled. He's fast as hell. He plays with physicality. Every shift is at 110%.
And he's a teenager.
And he's 19 years old, and he just put up 100 points. The second best producer on his team has 51. He has double the next best point producer on his team. There's only one other player, Alex, on his team with more than 20 goals. It's Will Smith. I think he has 21, if I'm not mistaken. So we've talked so much over the last few seasons about Robert Thomas. I'm somebody that brings up this point. Now, he needs somebody on his wing that can help him produce the points that we've all been talking about. Meanwhile, you've got this Celebrini character who's over here just going to work, finding a way to make it happen with a whole bunch of nothing, mostly on his wings. He joined Sidney Crosby, Wayne Gretzky, Jimmy Carson, Mario Lemieux, and Dale Hawerchuk as the only teenagers.
He's a stud.
To produce at least 100 points in an individual season. That's what you need, man. And I don't know how you get it. You're right, Alex. You get luck. But that's what this team is missing, because when you look back at the teams that win the cup, hell, the teams that go to the cup, we did this before the show today. I'm not going to bore you with all the names, but over the last 20 plus years, there's like a 10% chance of getting to the cup if you don't have an all-time great player.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible, but it's very, very unlikely. Macklin Celebrini or somebody like him is what you need in order to open up that window for you.
In the last 10 years, there's been 3 of these guys in terms of forwards that drive offense by themselves that were drafted first overall. It was Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes, and then Macklin Celebrini. and that's 10 years where first overall picks have been selected. Nico Heischer's right up there, Alexis Lafreniere, Slavkovsky, like Connor Bedard, who was supposed to be what Macklin Celebrini is. So to your question, how do you get it? Luck. Because I think people will look at this first round, our first overall pick this year, being like, oh, this is my chance. Not Macklin Celebrini. Like, Gavin McKenna's going to be good. Ivar Stenberg's going to be good. Macklin Celebrini is an alien. And those guys just, when they're available, you just got to hope you win the lottery. Just like when McKinnon was available and just like when Connor McDavid was available.
Yeah. I mean, Bedard was supposed to be that.
Yeah, and is
Bedard's
not
really good.
He's not Macklin Celebrini level, though.
No. Really
Chicago is still in the tank because of it, where Macklin Celebrini has literally lifted that team because of it.
If you get a Celebrini, it makes the rebuild worth it, right? Like, I think the Sharks have no regrets going through their rebuild because look at the stud that they got. Yeah. Let's ask the Blackhawks how they're feeling about their rebuild because they
about
drafted
to do it
Bedard.
Again.
Oh,
they're about to pick again.
I would say Bedard is closer to Thomas than he is to Celebrini.
I'd agree with that statement.
I think he's a little better than Robert Thomas.
Oh, damn.
Certainly a better goal scorer than Robert Thomas, but I don't think he's even close to the same tier as Macklin Celebrini. Yeah. That guy is special in every sense.
But that's why you don't try and go into rebuilds actively to just keep getting more and more picks, because you keep searching for that guy for... The Buffalo Sabres are a perfect example, 15 to 16 years before you finally get a roster that can start to win.
He's Alex, that's Steve-O, and I'm BK. If you guys want to get involved in the show, the two best places to do so at least, are youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. Also, via the 101 ESPN Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can get involved in the show that way as well. Jeremy Rutherford's going to be involved in the show. He recorded the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast earlier today. He's still here. He's hanging out, ready to go for us, waiting in the bullpen. JR joins us in studio next here on 101 ESPN.
You typically ask people, how St. Louis are you? I started to feel a sore throat last night, and I looked over at Jordan Deacon, and I said, I think I'm going to go to Ted Drew's and see if I can fix that tomorrow. And that's what I'm going to do later tonight. I'm going to take my girls to dance and then head over to Ted Drew's afterwards. The St. Louis tradition that's been around since 1929 is back and open for its 97th season. Fourth generation, family-run business that has been built on quality service and a love for St. Louis is open off of Chippewa. The warmer weather means more time spent outside with family and friends and enjoying that delicious frozen custard. You can buy it in bulk. You could bring it home, stuff it in the freezer, and use Ted Drew's whenever you want it when you're at home. Plus, while you're there, make sure you walk across the parking lot. Check out the Ted Drew's gift shop and historical museum. You could see tons of Ted Drew's, St. Louis, Route 66 memorabilia. You could buy Ted Drew's apparel, buy Ted Drew's gift cards, whatever you need. They've got it for you right across the parking lot off of Chippewa. So go check them out. If you are looking for a job, they're hiring. TedDrews.com is where you can get more information for that. Real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK, just randomly on the text line. BK, what's your primary food source that you get
White Castle
for protein as you're on a vegan diet? No longer a vegetarian. It was vegetarian, not vegan, just to be clear here.
Veggie-curious.
It was a fad. I'm out. I eat meat now. So turkey.
What kind of person are you that's like, no, save the animals, and then a month later be like, yeah, can't pass up that
3
chicken.
months. It was like 3 months. I would occasionally have a Chick-fil-A sandwich. To be fair. I can't say no. I'm weak. What do you want from me?
Well, I say probably like a chicken and a cow, probably.
All right, Jeremy Rutherford in studio with us here. JR, what's good, man?
Nah, too much. Is there like a meeting of people where you can go, I had meat this week. Sorry, my name's Jeremy.
Yeah, it's called Vegetarians Anonymous. I'm veggie-curious, and I had chicken this afternoon.
Yeah.
Hi, Brandon.
It's our version of church. So we go there. We tell them everything. Yeah, it's a whole thing. All right. JR, Blues lose last night. We talked about this a little bit. I'm sure you guys discussed it as well on the Last Minute Blues podcast earlier today. People can find that later on this afternoon, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. What was your biggest takeaway from the loss? Because that one was deflating.
I think it's that no matter how well you think you're playing and things are going good, it is hard to win games down the stretch because you're running into teams with as much desperation, if not more. This Sharks team had lost a number of games in a row. Was it 5? And they think they're still in this just like you do. And when you have one of the world's greatest players, he's amazing. It's going to be tough. So, the Blues didn't look as good in spurts, probably the first part of that game. I thought the desperation was there in the third. They were really going to the net and obviously got that game-tying goal and then had a hiccup there at the end.
So does that, in your opinion, put the dagger in them, JR? Like, you lose that game. I know they're not officially eliminated, but does that kill the spirits and take the wind beneath their sails?
I think it puts a big dent in it, yeah. Uh-oh.
Come on, that was good. That was a song.
No, but you messed it up.
The wind
takes the winds out of their sails.
No, it puts the
Not
wind
in their
into the
sails.
sails.
Then they
Well,
go
no, that
really
blows them in the other
cruising.
direction.
That would mean you're
no.
continuing to go on your path.
Blows them in the other direction.
You were
In
right there.
In his defense, he doesn't stay up past 1 a.m. very often.
Seriously, like, screw you guys.
So if he took the opposite approach, then how do I answer the question?
The wind goes through the... All right, I'm going home, but I'm out.
Yeah, I think that it was going to be tough anyway, right? And I think when you lose a game against a team right there, even with you in the standings, yeah, it's going to take a little bit out. Can they still do it? Yeah. But now you got to beat Colorado, beat Minnesota. It's going to be tough whether they won last night or not. And last night, to finish that close, be a couple goals down, I think has to be a little bit deflating. But this team is playing with some pretty good belief, so it's not out of the possibility to come back against these next 2 teams at least and play well. And then you got Colorado next week.
I think they're done.
Yeah.
Stick a fork in them.
So you're taking the wind beneath their sails.
Yeah, listen, man, it's not fun to say, but this is the position that they put themselves in.
For sure.
They played pretty bad hockey. I mean, JR, you wrote the piece. This is not a good team. You wrote that like a month and a half into the regular season.
Man, he just went into the flashback tank and pulled that one out and slapped
I was
it in
thinking
your
about
face.
it the other day because I was thinking like, man, think about how far they've come, but also think about how far they had to come just to get back into this thing. I mean, we were talking about them yesterday on the show. We opened up with them because Alex made the case. So listen, they are in it now. We have to seriously take them seriously as a playoff threat to even be in that conversation after the first, 4 months of the regular season is a pretty incredible accomplishment. But also, as of today, they're 5th in the draft standings.
Yeah.
So it speaks to just how far they had to go and how hard it was going to be able to get there. And it just never felt particularly likely, but it's a credit to them that they even got back into the conversation.
Yeah, but to me now it still seems like 2 different seasons in terms of the roster. So you had the Shens, Falks, those guys. Okay, we're going to compete. Hey, that didn't quite work out. Our top guys didn't execute. And then, okay, now we're going to trade those guys. And post-trade deadline, we're going to really give these young guys a chance. And we're liking what we're seeing. So yeah, I think big picture, gosh, they put themselves in a jam. Man, they almost pulled themselves back into it. But big picture, you step back, this has been a good transition, I think, for a lot of these young players. And it's going to set the franchise in the right direction in terms of their thinking, what they need to do.
And I have to imagine, too, JR, that the front office is going to be picking through this team with a fine-tooth comb from the Olympic break on. What they've done since then has been great, but I have to imagine that's not going to change the opinion strongly in terms of the direction of where they believe this team is headed.
Well, and Tom Stillman, the chairman, said it a couple weeks ago. Listen, they're on 2 tracks, and the one track was compete, and the other track is these young guys. And the compete track, they got off that, and they're still focused on that. So, to me, if I'm tuning into a Blues game, whether they pull this off or not, I mean, you're watching a player develop, Jimmy Snuggerud. You're watching, some other young players, Dvorsky, step in for Robert Thomas and handle Celebrini a week ago here. And so that might not mean anything for the standings this season, but it means something for the roster moving forward, and I think that's where the focus is.
Do you think this is more real than what we saw a year ago then? Because I thought the same thing last year, where I was like, look at this. They're ready to go. This thing is going to be heading in the right direction. Look at how far they've come. And then we got into the regular season, and it was a disaster for most of this year. So how do they avoid that same scenario playing out again next year?
Yeah, fair question, but I think it's completely different because it's going to be a different roster, and it's going to be with the acknowledgement of where they are. I think last year, they were coming back, okay, the retool has been sped up with Holloway and Broberg, and we pulled off this miracle to get into the playoffs and almost beat Winnipeg, and now it's different. Now it's, okay, here's where we are, and these young guys are starting to take things over. They want that responsibility. They want to be the guys putting the points up, but they also want to be the voice in the locker room too, and so I think that's where we're going. And we know also, we talked about this on the podcast, that there's probably going to be more change this offseason. So it's not going to be a deal where the same roster's coming back and you're hoping they can pick up where they left off against Winnipeg. This is going to be a deal where this is going to be a different roster starting out game 1 next year.
Real quick, Alex, I know we do this every single week, but does that mean anything for Robert Thomas's future?
It's a great question. I wish I had the answer. I don't know what Doug Armstrong and Alexander Steen are thinking now with Robert Thomas. We know that they wanted to trade him at the deadline if they got the right package. But what you're seeing from him, healthy and producing, and what he's doing for Snuggerud and Holloway, you can't just say enough about that. And if this guy, if this is what it took for him to step up and say, listen, I want to be the leader, I want to be the captain, and I want to be here when this team wins, can you still look at him and say, yeah, but we want to trade you?
Can you? Yes, you can. I guess you can. But oof, man, that's a brutal one. I don't think I've ever asked you this one, but this has been a season that I think nobody expected happening. If they would have beaten the Winnipeg Jets, and I know hindsight is 20/20, do you think this season would have had the same result? And the only reason I ask that is because I think it's about 6 times this season that the Blues have lost in the final 30 seconds of a period, where they've lost the lead or lost the game. And, of course, what happened in that Winnipeg Jets series was they lost with, 1.2 seconds on the clock. How much did that break the Blues this season?
I would answer it by saying that, yes, I think this year still would have happened, because I don't know how you could convince somebody to say a win in the first round, let's say a 5 or 6 game loss to Dallas, and maybe if you win the Dallas series too, then you're like, holy smokes. But does that mean Jordan Kyrou scores 38 this year? Does that mean, some of these other guys, Buchnevich scores 30? I don't think you can say that. So, yeah, you could have had some positive mojo going into the season, but I don't think the results probably would have been different.
We're talking to Jeremy Rutherford, Blues insider for The Athletic, here on BK and Ferrario. He joins us each and every Tuesday. If you want to see the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast, be sure to check that out. YouTube.com/101 ESPN STL. That is Alex, JR, and Donnie on there. JR, as you look down the stretch here of what the Blues can still accomplish in the final 5-10 games of the regular season, do you think there's a scenario in which Pavel Buchnevich is bumped back off of the center position? Could we see Pius Suter bump back up into the center role? That's one thing. We were talking about this before the show today. I just don't know that it's really accomplishing a whole lot with him there right now, personally.
Yeah, it could, yeah. But listening to Jim Montgomery the couple times he's been asked about Buchnevich in the middle is he helps us there. And he's one of our best, defensive players in terms of 200 feet. So it's not been a great year for him. Like, we got to do the report card here. He's probably not going to open it. Or definitely not take it home to mom and dad.
Totally going to throw it in the trash and lie and say it never was
This
sent.
old lady ripped it up. His dog just chewed it up. But, I think they're more focused on the other guys right now. Like, they're going to have to either hit the reset button with Buchnevich, or they're going to have to explore, are there opportunities to move him this offseason, which I can't imagine there's a lot of them, but I think they'll explore, right, and see if it makes sense. But down the stretch, I think this whole focus is on those younger guys.
It does feel like, though, that, and I know you mentioned it a little bit ago, like, they're going to have to make moves because you've got Justin Carbonneau that, from what they told us in training camp this past year, looked really good. You have to imagine he's making this team. Depending on where they're selecting in the draft, you might have another player. Like, there's a lot of guys and not enough positions to get all of these players in.
Yeah, and typically that takes care of itself. But I think with the situation that the Blues are in, there has to be intent behind a lot of these moves. Like, okay, if they decide they want to move Kyrou, they're going to try to do that. If they want to move Buchnevich, they can. I don't think they're necessarily going to say, we need to move Jordan Kyrou because we want to put Carbonneau in that spot. Yeah, that'll be the result of it. But, you're moving Jordan Kyrou, if you do, because you want to move on from him, not to open up spots. So, if Kyrou's still on the roster and Buchnevich is still on the roster and Carbonneau comes in and, looks okay in camp and they need to send him down to the American Hockey League, they'll do that. Like, they still have to go through the process of evolving this roster. It's just going to come down to, can they make these headline moves that you're talking about?
I had one other question for you, JR. There was a report, speculation that came out yesterday from Sportsnet, and I don't think this is going away anytime soon. I don't know how much it matters, but with Toronto now officially opening up with their GM position, Trey Living was let go. There's, once again, conversation about who's going to replace him. And Doug Armstrong's name, understandably so, is one of those that comes up whenever that job is open. He has the history with Team Canada. He is now no longer going to be running the day-to-day operations with the Blues starting this summer as the GM. What is your understanding as to whether or not he could even accept that role? Like, what's the contract situation look like for Doug Armstrong, if you have any understanding of
Yeah, I'm going to write about this afternoon. It should be up either later today or tomorrow at The Athletic.
You're going to crank out a story that quick?
I'm working.
God,
here's how I see the situation is I believe that Doug Armstrong would have interest in the Toronto job. Like, if this were a perfectly cut situation where this was the end of his contract with the Blues and he was a free agent, he would definitely hope that Toronto would call. I think that the Blues have no interest in allowing Doug Armstrong to talk to Toronto. I think it makes less sense for the Blues to let him talk to Toronto now than it did 2 or 3 years ago when this popped up, before they hired Brad Treliving, because they could have brought maybe an experienced GM in to replace him if they want to do that. Not saying they wanted to. Now it makes no sense. You have Alexander Steen coming in. He's still raw. He's still getting his feet wet. And Doug Armstrong has said multiple times, and Chairman Tom Stillman, that Doug is going to be here to help Alexander Steen. So where Doug would be interested, he's got a 3-year contract that I believe has a no-out clause, and I think that the Blues are going to say, yeah, you're here.
Makes sense. So they're going to keep speculating up in Toronto, and we're going to keep having that same answer.
I don't like
Can
the
we trade him,
smirk
JR?
on your face right now.
Can we trade Army? Can we get a pick for him?
You know what?
Is that actually a thing?
We
No,
won't
so-
retain salary either.
So we did talk about that on the podcast,
Be a lot
but
of salary.
I since checked up on that fact.
yeah?
Yeah, so there's no compensation for coaches, anybody anymore. Yeah, Gary Bettman, I should have remembered that, did away with that a couple years ago. I think it got a little funky with some of those those transactions.
When was the last coach that was traded in the NHL?
Sean Payton was traded in the. I don't know about NHL, but NFL, Sean Payton was traded. I know the
Jason
Chiefs.
Kidd got dealt as a coach.
Was
The
there
Chiefs
something with
traded for
Todd McClellan?
what's his name?
Andy Reid, your head coach?
No, not the current one. God, Herm Edwards. They traded for him back in the day as well.
Oh,
Trying to see NFL, MLB, NHL. Michael Bergeron was traded before the 1987 draft. He was he was the Quebec head coach, and he was traded to the New York Rangers. The Rangers received a first-round selection and $75,000. Wow.
But
the
I
80s
think
was
first
great.
round pick.
The 80s was great, man.
I think there's been an NHL coach change teams, and the other team got
Compensated for it?
draft pick. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll have to find. I'm
But
going
yeah,
to keep searching.
that's no more, so don't look for a Doug Armstrong trade to Toronto.
Sorry, Tanner. I was just thinking Austin
Somebody said
Matthews.
Austin Matthews for Army.
William Nylander for Army. Steiner wants the Swedes, so let's just bring
There you
another
go.
one in.
All right, JR, we're looking forward to the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. Also looking forward to hearing, or it's reading rather, what you have to say about the Army situation over in The Athletic. Always enjoy having you in studio, man. Thanks for hopping
guys.
in with us.
Yep.
It's Jeremy Rutherford, Blues Insider for The Athletic. Check all of his great work out over there. You can also hear him each and every Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario, most weekdays here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, Nolan Gorman with another home run yesterday. How much are you buying into what we've seen from him so far? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. The St. Louis Blues last night fell to the San Jose Sharks in regulation. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the LA Kings. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, puck drop at 8 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And last night, the Cardinals dropped their first game to the New York Mets 4-2. Game 2 of their 3-game set is tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Kodai Senga will be on the mound for the Mets. Andre Palante will get his first start of the season for the Cardinals. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
High fly to right. Beatty going back. That ball's going to carry, and it's going to go. That was one of those moon shots, straight up and straight out to make it a 2-run game.
You ready to buy in, Alex?
No.
Nolan Gorman, couple of homers, looking good at the plate. Don't talk to me about his defense. I'm not worried about it. It's going to be fine.
Oh, that throw. Thank God Burley bailed him out.
I didn't see that because obviously the game was going. I just saw Tanner's text that said, "What was that throw, Nolan?" And I'm like, "Arenado?"
Nope. Nolan
Imagine
Gorman.
someone playing cricket. You know how they kind of wind and fire and bounce the ball towards whatever those things are that they call them? That was basically the Gorman throw.
Yeah, he's not a great defensive player over at third base, but that's okay. He's not paid for his defense. You keep hitting these ding-dong Johnsons, I'm fine with it. I can live with below-average defense at third base in that scenario. By the way, just as an aside, Alec Burleson's been awesome at first base so far.
Yeah.
He's been great.
And the bat's been red hot.
Yeah, that guy's just a really good baseball player. I think there's a chance they ended up upgrading from Wilson Contreras at first. And I'm talking about the overall, what he brings to the table offensively plus defensively. At worst, I think it might be a wash. That's pretty good because Wilson Contreras is a very good baseball player in his own right. All right, back to the Nolan Gorman side of things. I've seen Gorman go on hot streaks like this before, Alex. And that is why I am very, very cautious with buying in to anything over a 4-game sample size. I do think he looks pretty good at the plate, though. Like, he looks comfortable to me. And I don't think that's always been the case in the past. He has 3 strikeouts and 14 at-bats so far this year, and I think overall he's trying to get his A swing off more often. That's one of the things that I've noticed from him, just anecdotally. Are you allowing yourself to fall for this again, or is it going to take like a month or 2 before you really start talking about him in a real way?
Yeah, he's probably in the same Jordan Walker category, if not maybe a little bit longer, because I've seen this with Nolan Gorman before, not in the first month of the season, but overall throughout a season, he will be red hot for a month to where it feels like every ball that he connects on is out of the park. And then the next month, it feels like he can't even make contact with the ball. So am I allowing myself to let this happen? Guys, 100% honesty with you, I can't formulate words or sentences right now, so this is going to be a rough show today. Am I allowing myself to let this become a thing? Absolutely, because I look at Nolan Gorman and I see what the potential is. But I'm not going to finish a series or finish a week or finish a month and be like, oh, yeah, this is the 40 home run hitter that we all thought he was. Because I need to see it from him probably for a good 3 or 4 months. Now, I'm not expecting him to hit bombs every week, but like I want to see you always be a competitive at-bat rather than be good for 3 weeks and then disappear for 4.
Yeah, I think when you can buy in potentially on Gorman, and I know this is going to sound weird to say, is when that first lull comes. And the reason I say that is typically when his lulls come, they last a month, as Alex was saying, to where you have that hot stretch for a month. I mean, you can go look at his baseball reference page. It does feel like it's a roller coaster where 1 month he's incredible and the next month, like, he can't hit a beach ball. The reason I bring that up is if he's really going to get to the potential that we think, which is potentially a 40 home run, 35 home run guy, the way he's going to get there is if he cuts those lulls like any baseball player will have, is instead of it lasting for a month, it lasts for 2 weeks. You know, that's what the best players do. The best players have struggles. You know, we never talk about them. You know why? Because they only last for a week or 2. You forget about them when they occur. The problem for a guy like Gorman is it occurs for just too long of a period. So right now it looks like he's continuing the momentum that he started to build out of spring training, and it feels like he's on one of those hot months. Because to me, the swing looks a little bit the same. I don't know that I see anything with my eye, and I'm not a trained hitting coach, but I don't see anything with my eye that seems to suggest this is anything that's different from what it was a couple years ago. But I think it just comes down to, can he cut those lulls in half? And that's how he's going to get to his potential. And that's when I will start to buy in, is when we start to see that.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. This isn't our first time seeing Nolan Gorman. This isn't like JJ Wetherholt, where it's like, wow, oh, okay. I've never seen this at the major league level. I wanted to see how he adjusts to major league pitching, and it's been really good so far. It's very different. We've seen many years at this point of what Nolan Gorman is against big league pitching, and it's quite erratic. At times it looks very good, and at other times it looks like you want to scratch your eyes out just to avoid watching him play baseball again. But it looks good right now, and I've been pretty impressed. I don't know. Did you guys see the Brant Brown interview before the game yesterday? It's totally cool if you didn't, but I wanted to reference it. So Brant Brown was on the pregame show for Cardinals TV with Jim Hayes, and he asked him about Nolan Gorman, and Brant said, listen, we need power from somewhere in our lineup. And so at times in the past, we've looked at Gorman and we've tried to get him to trade some of that power for more contact. And he basically said, like, our goal this year is just to have him provide that power, because there are not a whole lot of other places that we can get it from. So we just need him to go out there and hit for power. And when he gets 2 strikes, whatever, like, yeah, you got to shorten your swing, and now it's about doing other things. If you got a runner on third, 1 out, yeah, get the ball in the air, get that guy in. There's situational hitting that goes into all of this, but just your typical at bat, we need you to hit for power. And so I do wonder if the Cardinals at this point, and I know what people are going to say on the text line to this, but whatever. I wonder if they're saying, you know what, just let these guys be them. Gorman, you hit for power. If that means striking out 30% of the time, let's see how much you can offset that by hitting 30-plus home runs this year. Hey, Walker, just go out there and be you, and let's see what that looks like. Maybe it's terrible, but let's find out what you can do if you're comfortable at the big league level. Like, I do wonder if maybe they're leaning more into what these players are instead of asking them to be something different at the big league level right now. And I wonder what that can mean for these guys. What can that do for a guy like Nolan Gorman? What can Jordan Walker be if he's more comfortable at the plate? And I think it's both meeting the player where they are, and also, the situation is quite different for the Cardinals right now than it has been in recent years, where they did need these guys to be a little something different when the team was trying to compete for something more meaningful.
And I think that works for just those 2 guys. Like,
that's
because to me, I would rather the team try and get the player and fix his wrongs of what they believe will keep him a consistent threat at the major league level, rather than let them do what they're comfortable with. Because I don't want those guys, like, you don't just want Nolan Gorman, like, go out there and strike out as much as you want as long as you hit 30 home runs. Because when you're back to competitiveness, you can't rely on that 30 home runs, because this is the personality of that player. To whereas I think if you're able to fix the player, and this comes down to the player being willing to take on that ask from the team to try and right their wrongs in terms of how they approach it, I think that betters the team's future to have a player who fixes their holes and their issues so that they're ready to be good when they're competitive.
Ideally, I agree. But what if the player just can't fix it? What if Gorman is going to strike out?
That's my thing. Like, I never understood what they were trying to do with Gorman last year, where they would say, hey, we're trying to get more contact and we want him to hit for a better average. And when he would do that, like, if you think back to last year with some of his hot streaks, because he did have them last year, the reason they weren't noticeable, there was no power involved in them. So you sapped what was arguably your best pure power hitter's best tool and had him come down to being like a mediocre average hitter with less power. I never understood that. Like, I'm okay with the organization trying to change a guy if it's for bettering what his tools allow him to do. Like, getting Walker off the ground makes a ton of sense. You know why? He hits the ball 110 miles an hour. Like, if he gets the ball off the air, you're talking about a doubles machine and potentially a home run machine in that guy. The thing I never understood with Gorman was, let's sacrifice power for average. Well, that's just stupid. Why are we taking away from his best tool? I get it. If he strikes out 30% of the time, ideally that doesn't make sense for you to have on your team. But if he's like hitting the 6-hole, which he would be on an ideal contender, I think you brought this up with Gorman earlier in spring training. Teoscar Hernandez strikes out a ton.
Yes.
The Dodgers don't cry about it. One, they have a ton of superstars in their lineup, but two, he's hitting 6 and he's living up to what his role is supposed to be. So he's the one that I never understood what they were trying to do to try and get him to be an average hitter.
I do get it to a degree. Like, if I think what Alex is saying here is reasonable. If you can fix him, if you could get him to be a 260 hitter that also hits for that power and he can access it, well, that's ideal, right? Now you're striking out, maybe it's 25% of the time, hitting, maybe it's 32 home runs instead of 35, but instead of batting 220, you're hitting 260. And so that's worth it. The trade-off there is worth it. I think what they found is the trade-off is not worth it because now we're just getting the worst of both. He's still striking out a ton. He's not hitting for the same amount of power. And actually the average goes down because some of this contact is not as hard as it was previously. It's just weak contact, which is every bit as bad. And I know the text line will disagree with me, but that's every bit as bad. And in some scenarios, worse than striking out at the plate because you could potentially hit into a double play, all of these other things. Somebody on the text line from the 618 said, guys, Gorman has not done it to this point. Therefore, he's not going to do it in the future. Gorman is a bust. Stop relying on him to be the Cardinals' power source.
Hell yeah.
This is something that I will just reject outright. Gorman has done it before.
I love when you say that, man.
It's not true. Like, it's a lie. Gorman in 2023 played in 119 games. He was worth nearly 3 wins that year because he hit 27 home runs in those 119 games. He did it. We watched it. I saw it. You saw it. T-Bone, you saw it. All of you listeners that are listening right now, if you watched the baseball game.
This is just getting more Tony as it goes along.
Look, I can't think straight, but that sounded Tony.
You guys saw it too. And we did like the Men in Black flashy thing where we pretend as if we didn't see it because the league adjusted to him. And he's never adjusted back. And he needs to. And until he does, that's always going to be the one-off, and that's the outlier season. So right now, you can say Gorman's only done this one time, and I don't think he's ever going to get there again. That's fair. That's reasonable. But to say he's never done it before is not true. He did it as a 23-year-old, and that is why you bet on the tools. Because if it does happen again, if you find out, hey, over the last 2 years, there were some injuries that played into it, his swing was off, for whatever reason, he wasn't able to figure it out. If he does this year, the age of 26, and he hits 30-plus home runs, either you have a great trade chip, or now you've got somebody that can be that 6-hole hitter that we're talking about in the middle of your order when you're good again. Either of those two outcomes is pretty damn valuable. And so for the Cardinals, this is why you bet on that power tool. This is why you keep going back to that well. And it's why guys like Nolan Gorman consistently get opportunities in Major League Baseball. Whether you like it or not, and I understand if you don't. It is not a particularly pleasing thing to watch night to night. But it's worth it because that power is real, and that power helps you win baseball games. And T-Bone's right. It's slug, baby, slug.
I mean, to be fair, your logic's flawed because Gorman only did it was 120 games, you said. That's not 162.
Amen.
Which is even more impressive.
No, it's
he had
not,
27 home runs in 120 games instead of 162. That's a 35 home run pace.
Anybody can do that. Am I right, T-Bone?
Yeah.
Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now on the Your Comfort Service text line. From Moistus Alou. Alex, how much does it suck to do a post-game show after a loss like that?
The political answer would be it never sucks to do post-game like that because I'm living the dream job.
That's right.
That one actually is not as hard to do compared to back in December when we had 9 o'clock games when the team was awful. That one I could at least actually have a conversation about what happened and what's on tap for them and why it happened. When they were getting their butts kicked every night in December, I'm legitimately repetitive, and at 12 o'clock in the morning, there's no point in doing that. So those are the ones, if you go back on our YouTube page and look at past post games, those are the ones that are about 11 minutes.
I'm obviously not the post-game host, but...
You were, though.
Once upon a time for like 3 days.
It was fun, man.
It was not fun.
It was fun for me.
No, it is fun. It's a fun gig. I couldn't do it regularly.
He also got the West Coast games.
Yeah.
And he got sick, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
Yeah.
It's far better to do the post-game for something that's interesting.
Yeah. 100%.
Even if it's bad, if the interesting part of it is losing in the final 30 seconds in a game that is basically the backbreaker for the season, that sucks, but there's interest in it, and there are people that want to hear reaction to it.
Yes.
What really sucks is when there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's just a whole lot of nothing to say, and it's like, yeah, it's the latest in a long list of losses for the St. Louis Blues or the St. Louis Cardinals, right? Just be interesting. Be good, be bad. I don't really care. Just be interesting.
Yeah. Give me something to talk about, and that's what November and December and January was. There was nothing to talk about because the same result was happening every game, and I would just be repetitive. The goaltending was bad. Special teams was non-existent. You have no offense. At least now, since the Olympic break, man, there's stuff to talk about every single night, regardless of the outcome.
From Larry Bird's trash truck, can we talk about win, bat, and cleanup for the Cardinals? Stupidest thing ever. I don't love it. We said this on opening day. I understand what they're trying to accomplish with it. They want their 3 best hitters at the top of their order to get the most at-bats possible. I get that. And right now, like the way that I would have constructed it would just be flipping Wynn and Herrera. That wouldn't have changed anything either because Herrera also doesn't look like he's completely ready to go for the regular season. But I think long-term, that's probably going to be the way they want to construct this thing. I would also say this. If Walker continues to hit well, that could change some things in the complexion of this lineup as well, because he's a right-handed bat that could fit into the top 4 at some point.
Yeah, nobody wants to see Mason Wynn in the cleanup spot because I just don't think he's a cleanup hitter. I also think it's good that if Mason Wynn has higher belief in himself, as he should, of like, yeah, I can hit in the leadoff spot or the 2-hole or the 4 spot. This is the perfect example of when you start to kind of move into the direction of competitiveness, being like, look, we tried it. It didn't work. We think you're better suited for this position, and maybe he's more willing to accept that role.
From the 636, my girlfriend and I are going to the Blues game next Thursday. What food would you recommend us getting? I like the Shake Shack.
Shake
Shack's good. They got a really good pizza spot there, too. Deeks is the one that actually introduced it to me. I forget what it's called. Really freaking good. They got Chinese food at a hockey game. Is spot on. I saw the face you're going to make. I don't do it when it's 100 degrees outside. When it's cold inside, it's good.
I'm not even sure I'm getting the vibe for Chinese hockey game.
It doesn't feel
like hockey
sporting event to me.
Yeah.
But I get it.
I'd rather do it there.
Whatever they're into, that's fine.
Yeah. And the food there is pretty damn good.
They've got really good food at Blues games.
I'd get a good hot dog.
I will say all 3 stadiums right now, good options. Because you go to the city games, they've probably got the best food options. Blues games are great, and the Cardinals have really upgraded in that area in the last couple of years as well.
You put barbecue in front of me at any arena, that's where I'm going to go first.
I had some great barbecue nachos at Enterprise during the tournament.
Dude, they have some good ones at the Busch Stadium as well. Last year, I got some. Katie and I went, and it was freaking incredible. I don't remember what it was
from
called.
The one behind the
behind home plate. There was a huge line. We waited for probably 35 minutes, and it was well worth the wait.
314-399-9646 is the Comfort Service text line.
No line there.
For questions and answers. From the 314, from the 636, do you guys think the current defensive core is the same for the Blues next season, or is someone traded to make room for Jiricek?
I think it's the same. I think Juracek is your sixth defenseman, probably playing with Cam Fowler. And then and it's probably Tucker, but one of Tucker, Kessel, and Hall. I think if there was one that's going to be gone next year, it's probably Kessel. I think they really like Justin Hall, and he's provided that veteran presence that they lost with Suter and Leddy.
I'm good with that. He's cheap. He's going to be cheap.
Yeah, he's cheap, and honestly, you could probably sign him to a two-way deal and be fine in the American Hockey League.
I'm still not convinced Braco's going to be here next year. It's just hard to.
You bite your tongue.
It's just hard to see him fitting into whatever the next window looks like, right? You can, if they're putting the cutoff line at 26, I said this yesterday, you can change it to 27 and fit Robert Thomas in here. Are we going to extend it to 33 or whatever it is Preco is? Like, he's pretty far off from that timeline. If you can get what you got from Buffalo and what was the reported deal, I think they would still listen on a Preco trade.
Coming up in about an hour, Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, will join us here on BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, though, the Blues prospect list came out earlier today from The Athletic. What did they have as their top 3 prospects in the system? Where did they fall in the ranking of the top prospect organizations in the NHL? We'll tell you next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So earlier today, The Athletic put together their list of the 10th best prospect organization.
Top 10,
in
baby.
the NHL. They decided to go with the St. Louis Blues, according to Scott Wheeler.
All right, T-Bone.
He said the following: the Blues pool is missing a truly elite-level prospect, but they have high-end players at every position thanks to 5 first-round picks in the last 3 drafts and a couple of trades. They were 14th on this list a year ago, Alex. They are up to number 10 right now. I want to give you their ranking of the top 5 prospects, and then we can kind of get into some of these breakdowns. Number 1, the number 1 prospect in the system, according to Scott Wheeler, is Justin Carbonneau. Number 2 on this list is Dalibor Dvorsky. He's still considered to be a prospect on this. Number 3, Adam Jiricek. That's the end of Tier 1. It continues from there. Number 4, Logan Mailloux. Number 5, Theo Lindstein. And if you want to continue with number 6, the end of Tier 2, it's Otto Stenberg. So the top tier is 3 guys. He believes they could be legit high-level contributors at the NHL level with Carbonneau, Dvorsky, and Jiricek. And then tier 2 is guys that will contribute at the NHL level with Mailloux, Lindstein, and Stenberg. How do you feel about just the overall rankings of that list, Alex?
I feel like it's right where it needs to be. And I'm a little surprised by it because of the growth that they've gone through. Like in 2023, Wheeler had them at number 19. 2024, he had them at number 15. And now in 2025, 2026, he has them in top 10. And like it's grown because you've got Carbonneau and Jiricek, but you've also seen the development of a lot of these guys at the NHL level. Like I understand why he's putting them there in terms of tier 1 and tier 2 because of kind of where they project as. But like I view Logan Mailloux as a tier 1 prospect if he's still a prospect because he looks like a top 4 defenseman and has been playing top 4 defenseman minutes. But I mean, that's a really good spot to be in for the Blues in terms of the health of the organization because, one, they're competitive right now. They're making a push for the playoffs. Even if they're going to miss it, you've got a top 10 pipeline, and then you have all of these guys in the system with the potential of adding potentially that top-tier prospect that he said that they don't have with this upcoming draft, and also a couple of other first-round draft picks to add to it. So, like, this is what you want when you're stuck in the middle like the Blues are. You want a cupboard full of guys that you can package together to go get the dude, or you just continue to find those outs with these guys potentially becoming dudes. I will say the other thing that stuck out to me about this list was they have a lot of guys and not a lot of places to play them. I mean, like I look at this roster right now, and I think everybody's answer would be, will you trade Jordan Kyrou? To JR's point, you got to find somebody who's willing to give you what you want for Jordan Kyrou, and Jordan Kyrou has to be willing to leave. Where does Carbonneau play next year? I mean, like, are you taking Berggren out of the lineup? I think he's been pretty good. Are you taking Stenberg out of the lineup? You're not taking Kyrou or Buch out of the lineup unless you're moving them or moving them down. So they have pieces that they're going to have to move on from, which sets up a fascinating offseason.
Yeah, I'm actually not too concerned about that element of it because if push comes to shove and you can't move Jordan Kyrou, I'm sorry, Berggren, you're out of the lineup because we believe Carbonneau has a brighter future and a longer future with the St. Louis Blues. And if we're being honest, and I agree, I like Berggren's game. I like the fact that he's remained in the lineup on that third line. Sorry, Berggren, right now you're kind of more the stopgap on that third line. Until we can figure things out, we're going to have to play the guy that has the higher ceiling in Carbonneau to be in here. But I agree that it feels like the right spot in their organization, especially reading up that there wasn't a like top tier level prospect that could be viewed as like almost a franchise altering level prospect, like a guy like Celebrini would have been when he first came up with the San Jose Sharks. That feels right when I look at their pipeline. I don't see a guy that's going to come in and like suddenly just snap of the fingers, turn around the franchise. They have a bunch of nice complementary pieces, and I don't know what that means for them in the long term until they find that superstar, right? Because I would agree, like right now, a lot of the pieces that they have look like good players for them. Stenberg, Dvorsky, Jimmy Snugger looks like a good piece. Holloway's been a good piece that they were able to find. I know he wasn't a prospect, but someone that they got from the Oilers. And look at where they are. They don't have a superstar to really lift up their ceiling. All they have is floor raisers right now with a very limited ceiling as an organization.
So I do find that interesting. That's kind of what I took from this as well, T-Bone. If you look at the way that Scott Wheeler, now this is one person's evaluation of these players. Maybe others would differ, right? If you talked to people within the Blues organization, I'm sure they have differing opinions on some of these players, much less third-party evaluations. But for him, and I think this kind of jives with most of what we've heard, he says he thinks Carbonneau can eventually be a top 6 winger. Not a surefire top line guy, but a top 6 winger is what he thinks he can project to be. He's got Dvorsky as a middle 6 center. That's pretty much in line with what we've seen from him this year. Juracek, he thinks he's a 4th defenseman, so he can be a part of a top 4, but the 4th guy within that top 4D. Stenberg thinks is probably a 3rd line winger. Lindstein, legit NHLer, probably a 3rd pair defensively. And then Mayu, I did find this to be interesting, said he sees shades of Brent Burns in his game. Now,
and he's a tier 2 prospect?
Yeah, I think it was like
it's only shades.
I think it was a style of play thing more than a quality of play where he kind of plays similarly to him. So I take that for what you will.
I'll take a shade of Brent Burns.
No doubt. None of those guys are really changing the outlook of this organization. And that's where you get back to, all right, then how do you do that? Where is that coming from? And I think it could be twofold. One, this draft. You've got to find somebody in the top 5, hopefully, that can really unlock the potential of what you have, especially in your top 6. 2, trades. Mm-hmm. Like Jordan Kyrou could be the guy. You mentioned you've got to open something up in your top 6 for a guy like Carbonneau. Well, Jordan Kyrou's that guy. We all know how this is going to go. Kyrou's probably not long for St. Louis. They've got to find the right deal for him. They can't just give him away for free or just decide to move on willy-nilly from it. But Kyrou's probably the one that's going to go, which means, hey, Berggren, you can stay. I don't need to trade Berggren. I've got another guy that I can move because it's not as though there's 4 or 5 guys that are flying through the system that need an opportunity at the NHL level.
Yeah.
It's really just Carbonneau.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of here right now. Like most of these guys, we've been talking about them for a few years now, and now it's their opportunity to make that jump to the NHL level. So I don't think there's a whole lot of questioning where these guys are going to fit in so much as it is who's going to be here for the long haul. Who are you really building around? It's kind of the Cardinals question versus who's just biding their time before they end up in a different organization to make one of those big moves.
Well, the interesting spot for them, too, is, option 3 in terms of finding those stars, those guys that raise the level of your team. What if they've already found them? Like, it could be Snuggerud and Holloway. You have to wait to see until they're healthy, and I don't know what the future of them looks like because, if you look at the way they've been playing, we all agree they've got a line that's playing like a top line. Can they do it for 82 games? You have a number 1 defenseman. And it'd be great to have 2 number 1 defensemen or another top pair guy. Maybe Juracek becomes one, maybe Mayu does, but Broberg's a number 1 defenseman. He's a top pair guy. So now it's just you kind of have to filter through with the complementary pieces. But you're right. You have a lot of complementary pieces. You might need to trade a lot of those to go get one other piece to put in there with that top pieces that you already have.
Yeah. And I think Snuggerud's really good. I think Holloway's really good. I don't know what the ceilings look like for them. Are they, as we talked about in our open today, do you have anybody currently on the roster? Do you have anybody that you could get this offseason that will go down as your version of the best player on Stanley Cup contending teams? Because if you look back at it over the last 20 plus years, about 85 to 90% of the teams that make it to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, and I'm talking about the teams that win it and the teams that lose it, they've got an all-time great Hockey Hall of Fame caliber of player. Do you have that currently on this roster?
No.
I don't think so.
If you're not counting goalies, Binnington might be a Hockey Hall of Famer, but not counting goalies, no.
Yeah, I think you have the potential of Thomas, but I haven't seen it for a full 82-game schedule.
And that's where it gets into the big question long term, which is how do you get him? How do you get that player? It's like being an NFL roster and having everything you need except the quarterback.
Yeah.
Or being a basketball team and you've got all the complementary pieces. You don't have the guy that it's 10 seconds left. You need a bucket and you can go to this guy and he's going to get it for you. They're missing that. And I don't know if or when it's coming, but if you can find it, man, the complementary pieces are all kind of here. You've got all of that other stuff done. You've just got to have the dude. And I think what's hard for Blues fans, I would imagine, with all of this conversation is the Blues were the outlier. When they won the Cup in 2019, they were one of those 10 to 15% teams that I talked about that didn't necessarily have that all-time great player. And so they went on this miraculous run, and we saw them do it. And so now you want to believe that they can do it again. And it is technically possible. They could go on another run. It's just highly unlikely because that's not generally speaking, how it works in the NHL.
Well, good news, Blues fans. I just went to Tankathon, hit Sim Lottery. Blues got the first overall pick.
There you go. It's all fixed.
Fixed it.
Now, if you get lucky, that guy will be really good, and he changes the outlook.
Or
of the
we get
floor.
our Bedard.
Or you even get lucky. You're in Detroit's pick as a lottery pick, and you get the first 2 picks in the draft.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in
Like
14
that.
minutes, are we starting to see teams get in front of the CBA negotiations with Major League Baseball? Some interesting moves transactionally over the last few days. We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. The transfer portal, though, it's off and running despite the college basketball season continuing along. Couple of bits of news from SLU and Mizzou yesterday that we'll dive into next year on 101 ESPN. And I want to react to something that we got on the text line here for just a moment. We'll get into the transfer portal momentarily. Because, Alex, we've been talking a lot about the draft, the situation the Blues find themselves in, and how they can open up a Stanley Cup window as opposed to just a get to the playoffs, lose in the first or second round kind of a window, right? So, Artificial Unintelligence texted in and said, players drafted first overall since 2009 have only won 3 cups, and only one of those players won it twice. Nothing is guaranteed. And that's true. Nothing is guaranteed. Like, you could end up with Nail Yakupov as your number 1 overall pick.
Hopefully you don't.
You could end up with Eric Johnson as your number 1 overall pick.
Hey, that worked out for both sides.
Or you could end up with Marc-Andre Fleury.
Ooh, that was... Well, don't take a goalie first overall.
Or Alex Ovechkin.
That was
or
good.
Sidney Crosby.
That was good.
Or Patrick Kane.
That was good.
Or Steven Stamkos.
That was good.
Or John Tavares, who has not won a cup, but was a pretty damn good hockey player.
He's a Hall of Famer.
or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, or Nathan McKinnon, or Aaron Ekblad, or Connor McDavid, or Austin Matthews. Now, again, not all of these guys have won a cup. That is true.
But how many of them have been busts? I've heard one so far.
Would you consider Taylor Hall to be a bust?
I would.
I would, for the expectations that were placed upon him.
Yeah, but I mean, I also look at it and say he was a 40-goal scorer in the National Hockey League. He won an MVP, and he traveled around, but he consistently put up points in the early portion of his career. I think he was a bust in the standards of the Edmonton Oilers needed somebody to come in and be McJesus, and Taylor Hall was not McJesus. So I wouldn't call him a bust. I would call him a bust in terms of the expectations, but I think he turned out to be a really good NHL player.
Eric Johnson, bust.
Yeah.
For number 1 overall pick.
For number 1 overall pick, sure.
Has he had a good NHL career? No doubt about it. If you took that guy 10th overall, you're probably feeling pretty good about it. Number 1, I think you're disappointed.
Yeah,
and I would say the same thing personally about Taylor Hall, but I get it. You make a totally fair argument.
I mean, Eric Johnson, though, man, like he played in the league for 20 years. He won a Stanley Cup.
If your success comes with the organization that didn't take you number 1 overall, I'm sorry, you're a bust.
Would you say that
sometimes
Blues
guys make
fans
those
would consider
decisions?
Eric Johnson a bust?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's fair. And
But
I think
to call him a bust in the NHL, I wouldn't really say that, because if you get 20 years, that's a consistent player.
He's been a very good NHL player.
But I understand.
Very good
first overall, you're right. Like
There's
did
different
not live
expectations. The expectations for number 1, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane,
even
Steven
Aaron
Stamkos.
Even Aaron Ekblad. Ekblad is not a generational type of Matthew Schaefer defenseman, but
Ekblad's outstanding, though.
But he's not. But what I'm saying is, like, people look at Matthew Schaefer and they're like, holy bleep, that's a first overall pick. Like, Ekblad was never a generational player. Ekblad has been an incredible top pair defenseman for his entire career.
Yeah, and I would say that's different than Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, like I think Aaron Ekblad has reached a much higher ceiling in his career than Eric Johnson did.
Yeah.
But like we can continue from there. McKinnon, Ekblad, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews. He sure is a really good player.
Yeah, that's not a bust. I mean, he's a number 1 center on the Devils. The Devils have been a poorly run organization.
Rasmus Dahlin.
That's not a bust
take
at
that
all.
every day of the week. Jack Hughes, you'd take that. Now, Lafreniere, that's a bust.
Yeah.
Owen Power, I'd be pretty happy with it. I would say it's disappointment, though,
Right
for
now
number 1 overall expectations.
Yeah.
I also think because how many games has he played in the NHL?
I'd have to look.
Is it because, like, Pronger always says, like, 300 games is when you know what you got. And I think he's still...
Like 240.
So he's getting close to it. I mean, he plays top 4 minutes. I guess it's to be determined on if you want to call him a bust. I think it's still early in his career to call him a bust.
Slavkowski?
No, that's not a
he's
bust.
gotta be a stud.
He's a top line winger with Montreal Canadiens. I mean, he's playing with Suzuki and Caulfield.
I know his numbers aren't there yet. I mean, this feels like his
He's
breakout
also
year.
21, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's. I mean,
He was awesome at the Olympics too, by the way.
I mean, he's a part of a team right now that's putting up a hell of a lot of points. So I think it's still too early to call him a bust or a success. Right now, he's playing successful.
And then Bedard, Celebrini, Schaefer, those guys are
2 of the
awesome.
3 are already a success, and one of them, the team was just in a crap position to sit there and even judge if he's been. I mean, he's the only reason that they've had life this season.
Basically, since 2003, I would personally, for me, Alex, and you might even have a smaller list than this, I would say Eric Johnson, Taylor Hall, Nail Yakupov, Owen Power,
Lafreniere.
and Lafreniere. Those would be the 5 to me that are disappointments to busts.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range for the number 1 overall pick expectations. That's in the course of 23 years. So you have about a 75% chance of getting somebody that really changes the outlook for your organization, most of whom could be a top 2 to 3 player on a Stanley Cup contending team.
Yeah.
So that's why when we talk about the number 1 overall pick, it's different, man. Though that is a different caliber of player than what the Blues have had access to in literally 20 years. Almost like since 2006.
Yeah.
So that to me is why when you look at what changes things for you, that's it. It's luck, it's good fortune, it's winning the lottery.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if you want the actual, like, busts, you get into the 2nd overall pick conversation, because more times than not, like, but even then, like, I say that and I'm looking at this list, and I know we don't have time to go through this, but I'll rattle off some of the.
Hey, man, we can. Ant Robinson decided to transfer from Mizzou. It's a sad story. It's an understandable story. It sucks that he's not going to be there next year. He could have been one of those 4th-year players. That doesn't happen often in college basketball anymore, staying at one school for 4 years, developing throughout that time. It just didn't work. This year didn't work. It was time for a fresh start for both sides. Mizzou has probably, I would assume, T.O. Barrett coming back, and they've got Jason Crow Jr. coming in. Those guys are going to take a lot of time, and I think you need a better point guard to play alongside Jason Crow Jr. than the uncertainty that exists right now with Ant Robinson. So that's my Mizzou side of things. On the SLU side, it's kind of a weird story. I don't really know what to make of it just yet, but when a guy that has averaged 7 points per game last year decides to transfer right after they announced that you were going to have $10 million in NIL, it makes me think maybe he's asking for too much money relative to what he's worth. So Brady Dunlap has also announced that he's going to transfer from SLU. Those are the big news yesterday. All right, Alex, number 2 overall pick.
Nailed it. So we started at 2003. Eric Stahl, Hockey Hall of Famer. Evgeny Malkin, obviously. Bobby Ryan, he had personal issues, but at the time was a elite goal scorer in the NHL. Jordan Stahl, James Van Riemsdyk, he's still playing. I'd say that's somewhat of a
Definitely
bust.
a disappointment.
Drew Doughty, Victor Hedman, Tyler Sagan, Gabriel Landeskog, Ryan Murray. Everybody has a bad one. Alex Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Jack Eichel, Patrick Laine, who like personality disappointment, but at the time was a sensation. Nolan Patrick, complete bust. Svechnikov, I can hear somebody argue, I think he's a success. He's just not, he's not the elite of the elite.
I think he's what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
And it's probably why you've been where you're at consistently. Capo Caco, bust. Quentin Byfield,
disappointment
like
relative to expectations.
right now, and I still think there's more time for that to go the opposite direction. Matty Beniers, I'd call it a success, even though Seattle's been bad. Simone Nemec and Leo Carlson. Like 3,
I would say
busts?
6 are disappointments.
Yeah.
And that's, again, dating back to 2003.
23 years. Like the first and second overall picks, the reason
75% hit rate.
The reason they become busts, and it's no coincidence, look at the 2 lists that we just went through and then look at the teams where we called them busts. The Rangers made 2 of them that were busts. The Oilers have made busts. Like typically it's organizations that make mistakes rather than the player not living up to the hype. And like, what has led you to believe that this scouting staff, if they're lucky enough to pick in this position, don't have success with this high of a pick? When was the last bad selection that the Blues have taken? Dominic Bach?
They cashed out on him in time.
Which also wasn't this regime. That was Bill Armstrong.
Late first-round pick, but the Russian Kostin. But, like, he wasn't...
Yeah, but also previous regime. That's not Tony Feltrin. But, you're right.
The other thing, too, that's a theme in those 2 drafts, I think, like Kakko, Lafreniere, and then you mentioned the Yakupov draft.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a draft that just sucks. Like, let's just be honest about it.
Not wrong.
You have that in baseball, too.
Yeah.
Hell, this year, the NFL, I think this draft might be bad.
Yeah.
At the top.
And we're going to look at a lot of those draft picks and go, man, what were these teams thinking? And the answer was, there probably wasn't a good answer when you drafted with that pick.
I'll never forget that. Now, even bad drafts have really good players in them.
Yeah.
It's just less certain at the top. I'm going to go back to the 2013 NFL draft real quick because that's the one that immediately comes to mind for me. I remember the number 1 overall pick, if this is the right one, if I remember correctly. That was the year the Chiefs took Eric Fisher, number 1. And I was so annoyed because they never get the number 1 overall pick, and this was the year. Yeah, that was it. Number 2 was Luke Jokel. Number 3 was Deion Jordan. You guys remember Deion Jordan? He was like 26 years old.
Wasn't he a defensive lineman?
Mm-hmm. Lane Johnson was number 4. Hall of Famer. Guy's amazing. But then after that, Ezekiel Ansah, Barkevius Mingo, Jonathan Cooper, Tavon Austin, Milliner, Chance Warmack, DJ Fluker, DJ Hayden, Sheldon Richardson, Star Lutulele. It's a list of a bunch of dudes that most people have never heard of. EJ Manuel was the first quarterback selected in this draft at number 16 overall. There was no other first-round quarterback. The only Pro Bowlers to come from this first round were DeAndre Hopkins, or excuse me, only guys that are still playing. DeAndre Hopkins and Lane Johnson. That's it.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really
and the
bad
reason
draft.
I brought that
Gino's
up,
still playing, by the way, second rounder.
Shout out Gino. The reason I brought that up is this year doesn't feel like one of those drafts.
No.
Right? Like when you see the list, you've got McKinnon, you've got Stenberg, and then depending on how you view Wheeler and Promen, who we've been kind of talking about at the start of this conversation last segment, they say there's 5 elite tier 1 players?
No,
6
I think he had 8, didn't he?
I can't remember the number, but it's like 5 to 8, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And there's years where you look at drafts and like shrug emoji. Yakupov, not tier 1, probably not tier 2.
Listen to this Yakupov draft. Yakupov was taken first overall. Ryan Murray second overall. Alex Galchenyuk third overall. Griffin Reinhart fourth overall. Morgan Riley, Hampus Lindholm, Matt Dumba, Derek Pouliot, Jacob Trouba, Slater Kiki, Philip Forsberg, Mikhail Grenko, Radek Faksa. That was the top 13 in the 2012 draft.
The draft that I remember this from was the draft where the Blues ended up selecting Dalibor Dvorsky. Now, there was a really good top 3 that year. That was the Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli top 3. And everybody knew those guys are going to be special. But then after that, there was a severe drop-off. And the other guys were still considered to be good prospects. They just weren't the same kind of change, alter the franchise type of players. And so San Jose went with Will Smith, who's become a pretty good NHL player. I mentioned earlier the Sharks have one guy outside of, what's his face? Celebrini, who has more than 20 goals on the season. It's Will Smith. Yeah. So it's worked out, but that's kind of like saying that Jake Neighbors has worked out for the Blues. Yes, he's a very good player, but it's not the kind of thing that's going to completely change the trajectory of you. And then it was like David Reinbacher and Simashev, who's good prospects, but still making his way through
defensemen
the
or
minor
late
leagues.
bloomers.
Mishkov, who we talked about at the time as like, hey, really high ceiling, but no clue what he's going to be at. The reason I bring this up is because these guys that do this for a living are pretty damn good at projecting who the real game changers are at the top of the draft. And in that one, there were 3. In this one coming up, there seem to be 2, maybe 3. And then there's a bunch of really good players, kind of like there were in this one, where like Ryan Leonard. I remember how excited you were about him, Alex. Dalibor Dvorsky was a really good prospect, not at the same level as Fantilli or Carlson or Bedard. So this year, if you're able to get in the top 2 or 3, that's where the real game changers are.
And this draft has about 3 forwards that I think are game changers and like 5 defensemen. And the problem with defensemen is they're late bloomers. And this team, I think, is in a much better position for its future with their defensemen than they are on the forward side of things. So that's why it feels very critical to be in the top 5, to have a shot at one of those 3 forwards, preferably 1 through 3 if you can get the picks.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. And that was our college basketball conversation for the day.
Transfer
portal,
ladies and gentlemen.
Are we seeing teams get in front of the CBA negotiations right now in Major League Baseball? We'll talk about the latest here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Blues fell to the San Jose Sharks 5-4. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the LA Kings. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 8 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And last night, the Cardinals started their 3-game set with the Mets as they dropped Game 1 4-2. Game 2 is tonight, 6:45 is first pitch. Kodai Senga will be on the mound for the Mets. Andre Palante will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
I find myself asking this a lot lately. What are the Brewers doing? What do they know?
Winning.
Because they just signed back half of the top 100 prospect in Major League Baseball to a pretty sizable deal, Alex. Alongside Alex and T-Bone MBK, the Brewers signed an 8-year contract where he reached. He hit .238 with an OPS below 700. That was roughly ninth on his own team. The year before, in high A and low A, he did hit .277, did not have any power. And this year, it's 3 games, but he's done basically nothing of note. It appears he's a defense-first shortstop, and they just gave him $50 million guaranteed as he has played exactly 3 games above the AA level. That is, I would argue, puzzling, certainly interesting. And then today, that was last night, today it was announced that the Mariners have agreed to an 8-year deal worth $95 million with their top prospect. Now, this one is quite different. Colt Emerson is one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball. He's still in AAA right now, but he's going to play for the Mariners at some point this year, and it appears is going to be a really good hitter for them. So that one at least is easier to explain. But again, it's kind of similar to what the Brewers did with Jackson Chourio, where he signed the deal before he ever played in Major League Baseball. This is not the first time we've seen stuff like this. It does feel as though it's happening more often, though, Alex, and it's hard for me to ignore the fact that we are a year away from the CBA expiring and some kind of a new system being implemented in Major League Baseball. What do you make of this? Of Major League Baseball teams going to these minor league players and signing them to long-term extensions before they even reach the big league level?
I just think it's what you said. I think it's with the looming lockout and with the looming new CBA and what that big question mark is, you get in front of this and you sign these guys. I think the part that I find fascinating is how it's only certain teams that's doing it. And maybe it's because you're not going to see these big market teams do it because they don't need to, right? They'll pay the guy when they're ready to be paid because they have ample amount of monies. But if you're Milwaukee or if you're Seattle, you want to try and get these guys locked up in the front half so that you're not paying them even massive amounts of money. You're betting on what the upside looks like. But again, I think this is just this looming CBA change and what this uncertainty is going to look like for Major League Baseball. And if you're Milwaukee, who can't play in those waters with those big teams, then it's like, well, let's lock these guys up to smaller deals, not smaller, but a lot of money, but compared to what they would make if they hit their ceiling, so that we have these guys locked up and we don't have to worry about paying these guys.
The 5 largest contracts in Brewers history. Number 1, Christian Yelich, $215 million. Number 2, Ryan Braun, $105. Number 3, Jackson Chourio, who signed it before he got to the big leagues. Number 4, Lorenzo Cain at $80. And then number 5, Cooper Pratt, who yesterday signed a $50 million contract.
So 2 of them who never played a Major League game.
It's weird. It's interesting. I don't know if it's a bad way to go about business. I think the Cooper Pratt one is strange.
Yeah, that one is weird.
Especially a defensive first guy. I mean, it's only, $6 million a year?
But yeah, but if you go through, if the ARB system remains, and this is something that I wonder about, are teams now showing their hand that they think the arbitration system is going to change? in some kind of significant way. Like maybe teams are looking at this and they're thinking to themselves, if we're really going to push for a cap, the way that we can get that is to trade a cap for new rookie entry-level deals that are going to cost us more
so that they can
than
get
what
paid
we were paying
earlier.
previously. And so these guys will get it signed now. This is my tinfoil theory. If we get these guys signed now, then we won't have to worry about that new system. We will already have the contracts godfathered in, where this is going to be what we're paying them for the next, in this scenario, 8 years. We don't have to worry about whatever that new system is that's in place. I don't know.
Well, look at the pro sports,
I guess that would make some sense.
Well, look at pro sports around. Like, I don't know what basketball, those guys get paid like quick, but like in the NHL, you get a 3-year entry-level deal, and typically those guys get paid out of the entry-level deal. In the NFL, you have that rookie contract that you get paid pretty quickly
Basketball's probably hockey's probably the closest thing to what we have in Major League Baseball, because you do have those arbitration rights.
RFA stuff.
Yeah.
But more times than not, they'll pay them.
Yes, but it's kind of similar to the ARB system where, like, you could have somebody making $20 million in an arbitration case. Like this year, it was, $30 million for Tarek Skubal?
Yeah.
You can make real money on that quote-unquote entry-level deal for Major League Baseball, similar to in the NHL, where you could have a guy that makes $10 million in arbitration in that final year.
And look at Dylan Holloway, too. I mean, Dylan Holloway was signed, his entry level was 3 years ago. His entry level ended when the Blues acquired him, and he still has 4 more years of control. So I mean, that's 9 years of control by a team as an RFA status before you get to be that UFA.
I'm really curious to see what the Cardinals do here, because I think the only guy that really would apply in this way is JJ. Maybe you could argue for Mason Wynn as being somebody that you could consider extending on a long-term deal. Is this something you think the Cardinals should look at, T-Bone?
I don't. I don't think they should. Like, I don't like doing contract extensions for guys that never make it to the big leagues, and I get it. JJ's here. He's played 4 games because I want to see how baseball adjusts to these guys. You know, the one guy that I did say I wanted to give a contract extension to was Jordan Walker. Look at how that extension would be aging right now, you know?
Tyler O'Neill.
That wasn't me, but yeah.
No, BK for people that didn't hear on the radio.
How about Harrison Bader? That one would have aged gracefully.
Yeah, that one would have been fine.
I wouldn't have paid him. I'd complain about it.
The reason that I just don't like doing it is because when baseball adjusts, you know, not a guarantee the player adjusts back. So that's why I don't like doing these kind of deals for a guy like JJ who's been here, even though it looks like he's going to be a stud. You know, I would have thought that about Walker after watching him for the first year, you know. So that's why I don't think you should be exploring this if you're the Cardinals. I think you wait, go a year or two, and I get it. That means there's going to be a little bit more. He's going to be a little bit more expensive if he ends up being the guy that you think. I'm willing to wait it out to make sure that I get it right and not sit on my hands a little bit and wait and sign him to this extension and he flails out as a baseball player.
That's why I think it's important to keep that carrot in front of him. Like, I think it's important to keep that dangling in front of the player, because it's like once you get that big contract, there is a little sense of comfort to where it's like, I'm good now. I got money. Now I always want more if you're that guy or you have the drive to always compete. But more times than not, there's a little bit of settlement of, cool, I got paid, I'm comfortable, I don't have to worry about this. And if I'm a team like the Cardinals in a rebuild or build, I would dangle that in front of the player and say, nope, there's still going to be that carrot for you to get paid. And I'll pay you if you perform.
Yeah, I get that. I do wonder if there's something here going on.
See, I think there's nothing with the CBA that's coming up, all these extensions. I think this is just baseball as usual, right? The Mariners, I mean, they did this with Julio early on in his career. They must think this guy's a stud, and they want to lock in cost certainty now. Nothing to do with the CBA. I mean, if there was anything that you were going to operate on the CBA with, I would have thought it'd been in the offseason with the free agency of the potential idea of a cap coming. And most GMs said publicly that wasn't the case. And I think they were telling the truth there. And I know that baseball organizations lie a lot. I mean, they are mostly doing PR, but I don't think this is the CBA. And I think the Brewers, this is what the Brewers do, right? And I think small market teams like the Brewers and the Rays have to do this to lock up their guys. Now, it is interesting that he's not.
Do, though.
I find it interesting he's not a top 5 prospect like Churio was. They must clearly think that the prospect ranking systems are wrong, and they think he is someone that is special. So I just think it's baseball as usual. I don't think this is anything to deal with what the CBA is coming down the road here.
Yeah, very well may be the case. I'm curious to see what comes out of this. And if it's just like, hey, maybe this is the way the Brewers and the Mariners operate. Maybe this is something bigger coming in Major League Baseball, a change to the system that could be coming into place. I find the Brewers one to be really strange. I don't understand that one really at all, because I don't know what they're getting out in front of. This is not a guy that's had a whole lot of success with his bat, and that's how you get paid through arbitration. You don't get paid in arbitration for defense. So where are you saving yourself money? The other thing, and to get back to the Cardinal side of things here, one of the reasons why I wouldn't do it just yet for JJ is not so much the carrot, having that out there. It's the amount of flexibility that they currently have. And that's something that Bill DeWitt III told us on opening day, where he's like, hey, listen, when we come out of this thing, we're going to have a lot of flexibility to be able to spend what we want. And you look at their cap sheet for next year, they basically have nothing on the books. No guaranteed money, at least. Now, they can. I mean, you'll have potentially arbitration years for Lars Nootbaar and Andre Palante and Alec Burleson, Gorman, etc. You've got to pay these guys if you want to keep them here, but none of that is guaranteed. If you wanted to non-tender any of them, you can, and you could just walk away from the deal. Whereas previously, you've had these guaranteed contracts on the books with Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, etc. So they have ultimate flexibility on how they want to operate into future years. And my guess is that's by design. That is not an accident. And they wanted to have that in future years to see what the next CBA looks like. So the Brewers are operating one way. The Mariners are operating that way. The Cardinals are almost going in the exact opposite direction, where they want to see what's looming before they make any decisions on how they're going to maneuver within the next system that's in place for Major League Baseball. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Derrick Goold in 15 minutes. Junk Drawer is next here on 101 ESPN. What's your favorite type of candy bar, Alex? Do you have one?
I don't know if I have one.
I'm a Kit Kat guy.
Yeah,
Are you? Here's a
yeah.
story for you.
I like Kit Kats.
Well, maybe.
I like Snickers.
Maybe not anymore.
You know what I like? I like a good Butterfinger.
Oh, do you? I think those are the worst.
Oh, no, I love those. Well, you're the worst.
That's fair.
No, I like a good Butterfinger.
Just get stuck on the top of your mouth.
All of it does, man.
I do not like Butterfingers at all.
love me a
I like them. I
think they
not
should
my
be
number one
outlawed
choice.
personally. Like Maha, I think my Maha moment would be get rid of the Butterfingers, outlaw them. They should go away forever.
I do that with Almond Joy.
Wow,
really?
I can't believe that's the thing that it would be your first move.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we probably through other things if we're gonna go down that path.
Let's save that for the politics pod. 12 tons of Kit Kat bars stolen in a chocolate heist in
I saw
Europe.
this.
What are you gonna do with those,
Genuine
man?
question. What's the plan? 12
Sell
tons?
them? Sell them, I guess.
Are you gonna,
413,000 units of Kit Kat bars.
That's just dumb. That's somebody that just wanted to rob somebody and then didn't know what they were going to do afterwards.
Also, I guess I've never thought of this, but like we're just driving around 12 tons of Kit Kat bars?
Yeah, that's an absurd number.
Those semi trucks, man, every time you see them, gotta imagine.
Are they cooled on the inside?
Probably.
Okay.
Insulated.
Or air
Every time
conditioned
it's
at least a little
so
bit.
funny. Every time my daughter and I were driving and we drive past those big semi trucks that's got like potato chips on the side of it, she'll always look at it and be like, "Daddy, are there potato chips in there?" I said, "I would imagine, honey. I think that's what they'd be carrying."
Yeah, I don't know what you do with. I walk around the beach and sell them.
It's what they did in the
Candy
Old West,
Kit
man.
Kats for
You
$1.
held up a horse carriage by gun and you said, "I want what you have." You're just doing it with semi trucks filled with Kit Kats. You're set for the next 50 Halloweens, though.
Nestle said that it is indeed possible to trace the stolen goods. All they have to do is scan the unique batch codes found on each individual bar. If the match is found, the scanner will be given clear instruction on how to alert Kit Kat when they can share the evidence appropriately. Can you imagine? You're just one of these people, you're trying to make a buck, and you take these, you're like a new wholesaler, right? You're going to all these different grocery stores in the area saying, "Hey, I've got thousands of Kit Kat bars." Now, I hope that the grocery store wouldn't buy
Have
off
some
of
questions.
you, but
I'd like those.
if they did, you sell them to them, hey, then call it in. You're like, damn it. I got away with stealing 12 tons of Kit Kat bars, but the
Should've just eaten
selling
them.
it part was the part that ended up getting me in trouble.
Do you think if
I
you
wonder,
got...
was this a group? Do they know was it a group or was it one person? They believe.
Be great if
Because
it
I would
was
love to
one
know if it's a
person.
group. Well, I want to know if it's a group and hear the conversation of. Hear me out. I'm thinking we robbed this Kit Kat truck.
They're Robin
It's going to
Hood.
have a bunch of Kit Kat bars in it. I don't know what we're going to do with
Ocean's
them.
11,
Yeah.
but instead of it being a bank, it's Kit Kat bars.
It's Robin Hood. They're stealing it from the rich, and they're
There
probably
you
giving
go.
it to the poor. Did he say to the police officers that arrested him, "Give me a break"?
You've had
That's
worse.
pretty good.
I thought that was pretty good.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone,
The
I'm BK.
connections there.
Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer, next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. It's time for you to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Whether it is erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, maybe you just want to check your micronutrient levels, you can get that all done for you over at Victory Men's Health. And it's an incredibly easy process to book that first appointment. Do so today at victorymenshealth.com. They've updated their website. It's even easier than it used to be. Go up to the top right corner of the page, press Get Started, and when you do so, you'll be able to put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock that inner champion. When you get over there, you can see all that they have to offer. They've got a ton of different services. They've got red light therapy. They've got cardiovascular testing. They've got a recovery lab. They even have vitamin infusions. You go in there. It's at the very back of the location that I go to out in Town and Country, and they've got these couches that you sit at while you get those vitamin infusions. It's an incredible process. Get started today at Victory Men's Health. Book that first appointment at victorymenshealth.com. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline for our weekly chat with Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. You can read all of his great work over there, and you can follow him on Twitter at @DGould. Derrick, appreciate the time as always. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. So it's been an eventful first week of the Cardinals season. It's been pretty interesting to follow along. I'm curious for you, as somebody that's been around this team for so long, what has been the number one storyline that's caught your eye in the first 6 days or so of the regular season?
Oh, that's interesting. Boy, one that stands out. I'm still kind of eager to see what the fan reaction is, both because of the direction the team has taken, the trades over the winter and what that means for like kind of the star power on the team, and also the TV situation. I think the fan reaction to either the style of play, the results on the field, the personality on the field, or how fans even connect with their team, sometimes literally because of the TV deal, how that all plays out, you know, like what size the crowds are, what the environment is at the ballpark. All of that, just kind of maybe to distill it down, the fan experience with this 2026 Cardinals. And if they can connect in a way, both through TV, both in success or style of play at the field and with personality, if they can connect in a way to avoid the worst possible thing for the Cardinals and for any team, which is fan apathy.
Well, and that's at least, and I know it was the opening weekend and the excitement for how those first two games ended, Derek, but it really felt like just seeing the personality seep through the television. That seems to be the one leg that they may have to stand on in terms of grasping the fans' attachment to them this season.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the only leg. I think the experience at the ballpark is something that they will be able to improve and also be part of this marketing. But you're right, as far as the team goes, definitely the style of play, the youth, having energy and, you know, lightning bolt strike for JJ Wetherholt helps. He's a player who can certainly energize a fan base. They have a style of play that they want to energize a fan base. They got, you know, as far as pitching goes, they have some horsepower that they'll still show out there, you know, some velocity, which maybe, I don't know if that's a draw to the ballpark, but it'll be good when you're at the ballpark and you get to see it. So I think their elements are there. I would not discount the game going experience. Look, that Sunday game, I know they didn't win it, and it wasn't exactly like the greatest baseball. There was a lot of runs scored. But if you guys were there, or fans who were there, and they caught sight of sort of the kid themed, it went as far as even the player introductions, which is something that like is an attention to detail that other teams really do. And the Cardinals have been behind as much as, to be honest, like the game going experience in Busch Stadium, they've often relied on, all right, well, no, this is a baseball town. They'll see what the baseball game is like, and they want to go and worship at the Church of Baseball Heaven. Well, there's a lot more activities going on. The food is better. I know my colleague Ian Frobe wrote about that. It's got more of a St. Louis personality. But that Sunday game where they were introducing players from a kid perspective, and they had almost like Nickelodeon font going, that was really well done. Kudos to them. And last thing too, they finally have like a victory anthem too, which I've been, you guys know, been pushing for years. These other places, Dodger Stadium, Yankee Stadium, Wrigley Field, they have a song that they play that people sing along when the team wins. The Cardinals have not had that. Well, newsflash, they do now. They have one this year, and it's gonna make a difference. I'm not even kidding around. It's gonna be something that it'll be neat if they win enough and fans participate and it catches on. It'll be neat.
Were you singing for us, Derrick?
I will. I'm tempted.
That's all I wanted, Derrick. I wanted to tempt.
Derrick, people might.
It's Leonard Skinner, so I mean, you just really dive into those guitar whales for Freebird, and it's really well done.
God, I love it.
Kudos to them.
I think people may scoff at some of what you just said there, Derrick, of the experience and all of this, because I got it this weekend. I went to the Cardinals game on Saturday. I went with my 2-year-old and my wife. And we typically end up in that Budweiser Terrace area because for 2-year-olds, it's the best because you actually have a little bit of room to walk around, right? So they're not just confined to the seat the entire time. And last year, I believe it was Friday night games, they had the $5 drafts up at the very, very top. I don't know if this is going to be the case for every game, but for the first 3 games of the regular season, at least it was, they have the $5 drafts seemingly every game so far. So we'll see if that is something that sustains, but it's a small thing. Hey, man, I would rather pay $5 for a beer when I go to the ballpark than $10 for a beer. That maybe is something that will entice somebody to go to a game. You mentioned the kids theme on Sunday. We also signed Luca, my son, up for the kids club this year. And as part of that, you get tickets to 4 different games. The kids get to go down onto the field and run the bases at those games. And you get 10% off at the team store. Like, there's a bunch of different perks that come along with that. And I can't think of a better way to get a young person interested in the sport of baseball than to go watch it. Luca left that game, and he came home, and the next day he's swinging a bat in the backyard, and he's pretending that he's Jordan Walker. Like, that is the stuff that you need in order to connect with this sport. So it may sound small, but it's a really big deal if people go to these games and they feel more entrenched in what Cardinals baseball is.
Yeah, I mean, in the modern game, I mean, it's been a conversation around the ballpark for, a good 10 years, just about like, look, the Pirates don't draw like their ballpark deserves. Let's just be upfront about that. That ballpark is great. But part of what makes it great, though, is because they know they had to get creative with the experience at that. They have a geographic edge with everybody. I mean, it's an amazing view of the skyline with PNC Park, and the water's right there, the Allegheny and the Clemente Bridge. They are spoiled geographically, but they know that they also have to provide an event. And at times that's been theatrical with like a hype video. At times that's been, like taking the players out into the city and showing, look, this is part of who they are, and presenting them that way. Probably nobody did it better. And you guys, this goes way back, but like, remember when the Cardinals were in the NLCS? Remember way back then when it was like an annual thing and they would face the Giants? They would bring in Sergio Romo, the closer, to this video of him walking through dancing through San Francisco to get to the mound. It was awesome. It was the horn blare for Edwin Nunez before there was a horn blare. That kind of stuff matters. Like that fan interaction, like the Cardinals have really benefited from their history and the devotion of fans, which is to be applauded. And it spoiled them. It made them punch above their weight for many, many decades. But they needed to catch up, and they recognize that with the game-going experience too. All of this works hand in hand. Winning matters most. Let me just stress that before I get the tweets. Winning matters most. Style of play matters. Personality on the field matters. We've seen really great teams, not great. We've seen really good teams here recently not capture the imagination of this fan base, except for when Albert Pujols was going for 700 home runs. But they had they had an MVP on the field at that time. That MVP was back for a few more years. One of the greatest third basemen of his generation was on that team, and yet that still didn't capture the imagination of the fan base. So winning and style of play do matter. But the game-going experience is a big factor here, and they're in the entertainment business.
Save your tweets. Don't tweet at Derrick and saying winning matters. He just told you winning does matter. Derrick, for the on-field side of things, we spent all spring training talking with you about, wondering how this team was going to find ways to generate runs. And boy, did they generate them in the first weekend to open up this series. How much are you believing in what that offense showed versus just that adrenaline pumping and also maybe Tampa Bay not being very good?
Yeah, Tampa Bay. I was wondering if you're going to bring that up, man. What a rough defensive squad that was.
Woof.
I think they got to showcase the team that they want to be. They had one inning where they put it all together, like they would like to put weeks together. Let's just be honest there as well. That that 8-run inning, if they can sustain that kind of pressure over a week of time, they'd be very happy with those style of at-bats, the versatility in the way they scored, the creativity. Just a lot of different things happened in that one inning that gave them a chance to go, look, this is what we want to do. It's not all going to consolidate and collect in the same inning all the time. But, that's what they can do. And some of those things they can do consistently, right? The quality of the at-bats, the looking to take the extra base. These are things that they can control or within their control. Whereas some of the power that they showed and everything like that takes cooperation from the opposition at times. But I think, what you saw over the weekend was elements of what they want to be over the long haul. I don't think you saw a sudden answer and it wipes away any of the concerns. Certainly Nolan Gorman showed that his spring can carry into the regular season, what he was showing. Jordan Walker, what that last week at spring training, what he was able to click into place has carried into the regular season. And that's a huge deal for him to just have some positive reinforcement, some kind of production to go with all that work is super important for him. So it doesn't dispel the question. The question of how is this team going to score runs is still real. It's still clear and present for them. But I think it does show a glimpse into how, when they do score runs, they will.
We're talking to Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario. Derrick, you mentioned Gorman and Walker. I did want to ask you about those two specifically. I heard yesterday pregame on Cardinals TV, Brant Brown was being interviewed by Jim Hayes, and I thought it was really interesting. He talked a little bit about what's working right now for Walker and Gorman and their respective approaches and how different they are. And he brought something up with Walker where he said, we kind of had to meet in the middle, and there's a little bit of give and take from both sides. And then with Gorman, he said, we tried to get a little more contact with him last year, and now we're kind of just letting him go. And until there's 2 strikes, he tries to get his best swing off. In your conversation with people around the Cardinals, how much of that is happening right now, where they're kind of meeting players where they're at, maybe more so than, I don't know, in the past or at least last year? How much of that is real in your mind?
Oh, I think a lot of it's real. I don't know if it's different from the Cardinals' perspective. That's been a lot of how Brant Brown has often talked, even from when he was hired. And then you go back before him to even how Ali Marmol talked about it with pitchers and Dusty Blake coming and some hitters as well, was meeting them where they're at, an understanding of what are they comfortable doing, what can they articulate, and then how to maximize that with input from the team. With Jordan Walker, it definitely has been like a negotiation, right? Like he has some things that he was very comfortable doing, that he felt he had success doing. And the Cardinals wanted him to unlock more power, more consistency, some of these things. And they felt they had a real recipe for it. It took a merger of those two things and then a shared commitment, like an understanding. One of the things that, like, the value of what you're describing there that and what Brown described, one of the real benefits of that is the creation of trust. If a coach goes to a player and says, I want you to do entirely what I tell you, and the player goes, I'm not comfortable with some of that, and the coach goes, yeah, that's adorable, but I'm the coach and you do what I tell you. There's no trust there, right? That's just like enforcement. But one of the things that they want to do and they want to create with these young guys is trust, because through trust, they get ownership of their game. And that has been key with both of the guys that you described. If they meet them in the middle or meet them where they're at or get their input, it gives them ownership of that approach. And if Jordan Walker feels that he owns that approach, he's comfortable with that approach, and now he gets results from it, that's far more powerful for him as far as muscle memory, as far as commitment, as far as all the things, than just saying, do it. Do what we tell you. And that's kind of what they wanted to create. So I don't know if it's so much different as much as it is the players moving toward them.
Derrick, on the pitching side of things, I saw Ben Hochman, your colleague at the Post-Dispatch, tweet out that the Cardinals allowed 51 hits so far this season.
Just 51. Okay.
Just 51, most through their first 4 games since 2001. I think a lot of us were very optimistic of what the pitching staff was going to look like, specifically on the bullpen side of things. In terms of concern meter, I know we're 4 games in, so let's pump the brakes a little bit, but where are you at in terms of it just being the early portion of the season versus this might be a lasting issue throughout the year?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals will get fewer hits than they had and give up fewer hits than they had.
That's a good way to put it.
I think there'll be a balance there. Tampa Bay, in a way, is an interesting matchup for the Cardinals. You got Yanni Diaz, who's just a really complete hitter, really good, pretty contact-oriented team, not a lot of swing and miss, some real bad batted ball luck. I know people love that phrase. You think about some of the hits, the infield hits, the squeakers, which the Cardinals both benefited from and allowed, so it balanced out there, but those do exist. I think, Dustin May is going to have better starts than he had. He's not going to have, his next start is probably going to be far better than his most recent start. But that does, the Cardinals, it's interesting that they gave up that many hits and they also had a starter pitch 6 no-hit innings. So just keep that in mind, that it wasn't just like over the first 4 days. It was over the first 4 days minus 6 innings that they gave up that many hits. And, you're talking about a guy who gave up the no hits, who's a ground ball, sinker ball pitcher who's going to give up his fair share of hits. So I think you take it with a grain of salt. They'll give up. The bullpen is going to settle in. It's going to be better than it's looked over the last few days. The starters are going to be probably about, to be honest, they're probably going to be about what they've shown so far. It's just going to be different spots in the rotation struggling while others excel. It's just not always going to be the same guys. So, and the bullpen will be better, though. That'll settle into place. And, Roycroft and Swanson, it can't go that unlucky for them for that much longer.
You certainly would hope not. Derrick, we appreciate the time as always. Always great to be able to catch up with you. Enjoy the game tonight. Andre Palante on the mound. This should be an interesting one, and we'll talk with you again next week.
We get to talk a lot about the kick change. Aren't you guys excited?
Yeah, can't wait. We've heard a lot about that all offseason. I know that's something the T-Bone was mentioning as we were out there for winter warm-up. A lot of the guys have incorporated some kind of a change-up, different types, but some kind of a change-up into their repertoire.
Tonight is the kick change debut, so we'll see how often he throws it and how much of a drop it gets if it works well for him.
Derrick, you're the best, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
See you, Derrick Goold, Cardinals insider, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. You can read all of his great work over there, and you can follow him on Twitter @DGould. Appreciate his time as always. Alex, we were going to do better to forget it on the other side. Instead, there's some pretty significant news that we need to get to. We'll get into that next year on the other side on 101 ESPN. Some pretty significant news. Now, I had not seen this previously. It's possible I missed it, Alex. But according to the Chaifetz group on Twitter, they have announced that their chairman, Richard Chaifetz, has partnered with the Tom Dundon-led group in its acquisition of the Portland Trail Blazers. That transaction officially closed on March 31st, 2026, so today. Chaifetz joins a group as a co-owner and executive partner of the Trailblazers. He will serve as a member of the franchise's board of directors and its executive committee and the head of the executive hiring committee. The group is led by Tom Dundon and includes other alternate governors. So there's a bunch of different names that are on here. I don't know what his stake is in this, Alex. It's possible it's a very small stake. My guess is it's something a little more significant than that, considering he's viewed as an executive partner and will serve as a member on the board of directors. So he clearly has some kind of at least like a voting share in the Portland Trail Blazers right now. Now, I think the initial question that a lot of people will have is, does this mean that the Trail Blazers are moving here to St. Louis? My guess to that is no.
Yeah.
But the reason that I think this is really important is because, one, Chaifetz has been very open about the fact that he's interested in buying into the NBA. This is not new. This is not surprising. So that part had been known. Two, he's now in. And when you get to be a part of these groups, they vet you first. And so once you're in, it makes the process of then going in and becoming like the primary ownership group for a different team that much easier and that much cleaner. And it bumps you up typically. It's like the front of the line, basically, right? So if another team were to become available, Chaifetz's name would be toward the top of the list, you would imagine, for that team, especially if it's a team that could potentially be interested in moving. So I find this to be super intriguing, Alex. And I've always said I'm highly skeptical of St. Louis getting an NBA team. Mm-hmm. I still feel that way. If they're going to, this is probably the path, is with Chaifetz becoming a controlling ownership group, him being the leader of the controlling ownership group of one of the teams across the NBA. And if there was one that was probably most likely to move, I mean, of all of the teams currently in the league, the Blazers would probably be up there. I don't think that's in the immediacy. I don't think that's likely right now. But there are very few teams that I could actually see moving from their current situation. New Orleans would probably be the one that immediately comes to mind, honestly. But beyond that, there's not many options. There's more expansion than relocation chances. This is interesting. What's your reaction to it?
Well, that was my path, the expansion side of things. I mean, Chaifetz has been outspoken in the past of how he wants to bring basketball to St. Louis, being a part of the Billikens for as long as he has been. You know, when you see it, you're originally like, oh, okay, the Trailblazers are going to come to St. Louis. But I actually wonder if this is what you mentioned in terms of you just getting in on the ground floor of this. You get through the vetting process. You're a part of an ownership group. And then because they're already talking about expansion in the NBA, and St. Louis isn't even in that conversation yet. But if it's successful in the first round of it, when expansion comes back round again, which as we've seen in the NHL in the past, like when one expansion happens, more want to jump in.
I don't think St. Louis is getting an expansion team. I think that if St. Louis is going to get a team, I think it would be relocation, not expansion, personally.
Maybe, but
the amount of money that is required for expansion is ludicrous. I mean, it's like, I think 10 billion or something like that. It's crazy the amount of money that it would require.
Totally understand that, but at least it puts that process, then the potential in front of you. And we see this in St. Louis in terms of the ownership groups and how most of these are paired together. Like in Tom Stillman's ownership group, I know Carolyn Kendall Betts is a part of that, and I know the DeWitts are like, so they package themselves together. So I don't know what it holds, but as you said during the commercial break, it's at least a percentage of a chance for an NBA team in the future rather than it being a 0% chance in years past.
Yeah, that would be my biggest takeaway from it. Is it's went from like 0% chance to 0.1% chance. Slight increase. Because I think what this is for the most part is just a good business decision from the Chaifetz family, right? Why wouldn't you want to invest in an NBA team, especially when you've been outspoken about wanting to do so? I don't think this means anything about the Trailblazers coming here. I don't think this means anything really about getting an expansion team, because I agree with what you're saying. The money that we're going to see when they've now approved the expansion process, what you're going to see, what it's going to cost to get a team to Vegas and Seattle is going to be absurd. But it does increase the chances slightly. I think this was more of a business decision just from the Chaifetz family overall, that they want to get involved in the NBA, which is a good decision from a business perspective. So I think that's what that is. I don't think this deals with much of the NBA coming here to St. Louis.
To be totally honest with you guys, I think it's more likely St. Louis would get a WNBA team than an NBA team. The WNBA is looking at expansion. They've got a team that's relocating, I believe, from Connecticut to Houston. To me, and they're a subsidiary of the NBA. They're business partners. I wonder if maybe that's something that could be in play for St. Louis, is them potentially getting a WNBA team earlier than they could potentially get any kind of like a legit NBA team.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And honestly, that's smart. I mean, St. Louis loves
sports. The WNBA is exploding right now in popularity.
And fans in St. Louis love sports, man. It doesn't matter what it is. They will get behind it and they will support it. So if that's the way to start things off, or if that's the venture you're going to head into, it's a smart business decision and honestly good for the city.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if they're able to do this. The other thing about it is it kind of makes sense timeline-wise, because if you're just looking at the schedule, like the regular season for the WNBA is the summer. So here in St. Louis, they would not be competing as much with the St. Louis Blues for the arena. Mm-hmm. So you could have a situation where like they start in, I think, mid-May. The Blues season is typically over right around then. So you could have basically blue season ends, WNBA begins, and now you've got the ability to use Enterprise Center for that reason once you get beyond the St. Louis Blues season.
Now,
so
we were going to a Stanley Cup as a Blues organization.
They'll be there. Couple of years.
Where are you guys at on that, huh? No?
They'll be there in a couple of years. Let me see what the offseason looks like first, okay?
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Let me see if people are here first before we start getting excited about that. I can tell you're tired
because you didn't get excited over there when I brought that up.
We're hitting that wall, big boy.
Somebody said, thanks, BK, for opening this segment up with getting our hopes up.
Attaboy, Brandon.
One thing he does well, he gets you excited and then just knocks you back down a peg.
I don't think that I set this up in a way where I'm like, St. Louis is getting an NBA team. I don't think that's
I think you did. I think you teased it by some significant news. You opened up with Chaifetz purchasing an NBA team.
Yeah,
and then,
I agree with that, actually.
And then you said, enjoy it, big boy, and slapped
significant news
him.
only to say, this is the nothing burger. He's buying a share in the Portland Trailblazers. Yeah,
so way to not downplay what you did.
I think it'd be really cool if we got a WNBA team. I'd be thrilled about that. I think it'd be awesome. The league is, again, exploding in popularity right now.
They nearly shot themselves in the foot, but it looks like they got that figured out.
They figured out the CBA situation.
MLB, look at what the WNBA did. You know, they nearly cost themselves by locking out the players.
They'll get it done.
Yeah, my sister lives down in Atlanta. She goes to games all the time. She said it's a blast. If you're just looking for something to do in the summer where you're not going to be outside in 100-degree heat, this would be an opportunity for you to be able to do so.
You had me at not being in the heat.
I'd prefer that.
Go watch something that's relatively that's entertaining. It's not terribly priced. Like you can get into games for a semi-reasonable price, and you can be inside. Go watch something. We love our sports here in St. Louis. We would support this. That I can guarantee you. We're supporting right now the Battlehawks. You're seeing still in the first week of the season, at least, a team that is nobody's expecting to be very good with the Cardinals. 20,000+ out there in the stands. And the St. Louis Blues in a year where it's been pretty brutal. Dude, it's impossible to get tickets. I was looking at tickets for Saturday's game against Toronto, Alex. The get-in price was like $150 just to get into the arena. Like, are you kidding me? It's not even the playoff mix right now. Come on.
No, it doesn't matter, though. Those tickets are just priced.
And City
doesn't matter.
Well. Mm-hmm. Cities hadn't been very good either for the last couple of years, and they were sold out when I went there 2 weekends ago.
How much is the WNBA paying you, BK? Good Lord. Nothing. I'd love for them to pay me, though. Coming up next.
I got 3 little girls at home. I'm trying to get them into basketball.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Better to forget it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Sharks last night. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the LA Kings. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 8 o'clock with Chris Carver and Joey Vitale. Game 2, Cardinals-Mets series tonight. Kodai Senga gets to start for the Mets. Andre Palante will be on the mound for St. Louis. 6:45 will be first pitch. The SportsCenter update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. Alex, let's start out with this. Bet it or forget it. Andre Palante will go at least 6 innings tonight in his start.
Forget it.
There's a kick change.
So I've heard. Let me tell you, I'm ready to break down some walls to watch that kick change. I say forget it. I think Andre Palante is going to be what Andre Palante is. I think he's going to be a guy that can't miss bats, and I think he's going to be a guy that the pitch count goes up pretty significantly, and he's not able to get through 5. So I say 4 2/3.
He went at least 5 innings in 23 of his 31 starts last year. Say what you will about Andre Palante. He's kind of the modern-day version of Miles Michaelis.
He'll
be out there.
How many? 6?
5. But Alex said he won't go to 6 or more. It's 6 innings. He had 11 out of the 31. One out of
How many of those
3.
games were out of reach at that point?
That's okay.
He actually won the majority of those games.
Yeah.
Sounds like an ace.
Save the bullpen. It's a win. I'll bet it. I think he has a good outing tonight. I could see him going like 5-6 innings, 3 earned runs, right? Maybe 4 earned runs. I don't know if he'll do a quality start, but I could see that from him. I don't think he's throwing this kick change a lot. You know, Liberatore talked about throwing, what was it, a splitter or a changeup a lot, and then he like threw it once in his last outing. So like, this is all talk. We're going to try it. And then the pitcher decides at the end of spring, I don't really like the feel of this, and then ditches it by the time I get to like his 3rd start.
Kind of like what Libby did with his splitter.
That's the pitch I was thinking of, splitter.
Yep.
Yeah. He's not going to be throwing this kick change a lot.
Forget it. Alex?
Guys, better to forget it. Doug Armstrong will not be with the Blues after this season.
Forget it. I think he's here. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think the Blues are going to let him.
Yeah, that was Darren Dreger reported today on TSN. He said, like, from his sources, the Blues have no appetite to let him out of his contract in the first year. I mean, I get the noise around it, but Tom's going to want Doug to be with Steen for one full hockey season. Like, Steen has never experienced being the sole guy for training camp, for preseason, for in-season transactions, for a trade deadline. Now, that doesn't mean Doug's making the decisions for him, but he's going to be a sounding board for him. So if this was March 31st of 2027, I'd say bet it. I think he's gone. But I don't think that's going to happen, and I think it's because ownership won't let him.
Yeah, I would forget it as well. Guys, bet it or forget it. We will see Jordan Walker be the Cardinals' cleanup hitter at some point this season for an extended stretch.
Bet it. If he continues with the pace that he's been playing, and he looks like he's made changes, I could see him give him a shot at the 4-hole, just like they're doing with Mason Wynn. Hey, man, let's see what you got.
I'll say forget it, because I think it's more likely you see one of Burleson or Gorman in that spot.
I would forget it as well, because I was thinking you could eventually see them settle on pushing someone else into the 2 spot, and Herrera slides down.
That's
in that
not going to be
4.
Walker.
Honestly, you could see Walker in that 2 spot.
Yeah.
I think you see
becomes
more
like
in
your
the
best
4 than
hitter.
2.
He hits. He's got to hit, man. It's got to be more than 3 games, but
Who would you, if I said today, put your money on one guy to have more starts in the 4 spot?
the most starts in the 4.
Jordan, not with these 2 guys I'm going to bring up. I mean, honestly, if you did the whole roster, it'd be interesting too. But Walker or Joshua Baez, who would you take
This season?
this
Walker.
season? Yeah.
I don't think they're going to put Baez into that spot right away.
Yeah. Although I'm not 100%
I wouldn't be so
sold
sure.
on
I
that.
mean, they
yeah.
put Wetherholt in the 1 right away.
I think
this is
Wetherholt's a little different. I think
this
they
is-
view him as like the guy. Baez has had a lot more struggles in the Cardinals organization than what JJ did.
I still could see it though.
Different personalities,
I mean,
too.
You're in a rebuild. I could see at the end of the season, just let the kid go out there and see what he has to offer. And you've got somewhat protection in front of him. And if Gorman or Walker are performing well, you put him behind him.
I would bet on Baez. But that's probably because I was thinking the same thing with Wetherholt. They threw Wetherholt right into the fire. I could see if Baez plays well, they just throw him into the fire as well, especially if it's in the final 2 months.
Let's get into the text line. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Bet it or forget it, the Cardinals will have 3 Gold Glove winners this season. 3. I think Wynn will win it.
Wynn's 1. Burley's
Scott has a chance.
Show.
I don't think Scott's going to be out there for the full season.
That would definitely change things.
Yeah,
I'll say forget it because I think the over-under would be at 1.5, and I'd probably take the over on that, but
Burleson
getting to 3 is tough. Burley would be the one that's most likely to, but first base is just so hard to quantify.
Yeah.
I think short and first is probably it for you. And then if a pitcher for some reason gets it.
If Scott continues to be the center fielder, he'll have a shot. But, I mean, I said this to you guys off air. His swing doesn't look pretty.
He's only getting
right
on
now.
base with walks and bunts.
Yeah, so I would forget this. I think it would be the one I would bet on. It'd be Wynn.
From the 801, bet it or forget it, Carbonneau will replace Jordan Kyrou in the lineup this offseason.
I'd say bet it. I don't know if he's playing in that second line spot, but he'll be in the top 9, and I just don't think Kyrou will be here.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would bet it. I think it's the 1-for-1 replacement for him.
I think Kyrou's gone in the draft. I really do. I think he's going to be packaged with whatever they have to either move up or move and get an NHL player.
From Jack B's Hampton homie, bet it or forget it, the Cardinals will have more than 1 All-Star this year.
Forget it.
I'll say bet it. I think they get 1 pitcher and 1 hitter.
I would forget it. I don't think they're getting a hitter.
I think they get a hitter, not a pitcher. I don't know who.
All I know is they're required to have 1.
Last one here from Alex on the text line.
What's up, dude?
Bet it or forget it, Alex will be more tired for Thursday's show than he was for today's show.
Forget it.
He's going to bed by 6 tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to bed. My kids will
He's
be
not
in
gonna
bed by
watch the Cardinals
7:30. Yeah, no, I'm not going to get to see that nice kick
6:45
change.
first pitch is bedtime.
Last night was a rough one. I woke up at 5 with a crying child, went back to sleep, woke up at 5:45 and said, the hell with it, I'm awake now.
At least you only have 3 more of these this week.
Kids? I'm not having more kids.
You got the Kings on Wednesday
That's an
at
8 o'clock game. That's
you
an
got
8
the
o'clock
Ducks
game.
on Friday at 9, and
That
you got
one's gonna
the
suck.
Avs on Sunday at 8:30.
8:30, which is really going to be like an 8:50 puck drop. The Wednesday's actually going to be the best of the
Sunday's on
bunch.
ESPN, so you've got the late night on a national TV spotlight.
That's what I'm saying. It's an 8:50 puck drop.
That's going to be rough.
Yeah, Wednesday's actually the easiest of the bunch because my kids don't have school on Thursday, so I don't have to wake up early enough.
there
I don't
you
have
go.
a podcast to do, and it's an 8 o'clock puck drop.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Rewind is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care. Spring season is here, which means it's time to check out that HVAC system, to clean it, to make sure the PVC pipe near your furnace isn't covered up, making sure it's clear and it's clean, making sure leaves and debris haven't built up on that HVAC system, because now is the time where it gets that extra work, and now is the time that you need to put the extra work in to take care of it. So call Classic Air Care today. They've got a maintenance agreement. They'll come out, they'll check it, clean it, make sure you're good to go for the upcoming season. Also, reminder from Classic Air Care, make sure you go change that furnace filter. You probably forgot about it. Make sure that that thing is not clogged up. too much. It comes with incredible technician and customer service that you get, 30-plus years of experience from guys that are working over at Classic Air Care, and they've got a 5-star review on their Google Plus page, like this review from Daniel. Griffin on time, checked everything out, cleaned up after himself in a professional manner, very thorough, great personality. Only thing I needed done was to put a new humidifier filter in. Was happy with everything he did and would hope to see him in our next follow-up appointments in the future. So give him a call today or schedule online. Just do me a favor and tell him Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Hey, if you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Chaifetz Company.
On that podcast page, you can find one of the best hockey podcasts going right now.
Not one of the best.
Jeremy Rutherford's one of the best
podcast.
Insiders in the business. Donnie Fandango, as good as it gets, and Alex is there too. And they are available for you on today's edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. You can also check that out over on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL.
You can also find like a top 10 Cardinals podcast over there as well.
Top 10, we'll take it.
The incredible Tanner Hendrickson hosts the Cardinals podcast called the Redbird Report. You should check it out, man.
Looked at the thumbnail. You never know I'm on it.
Yeah, no.
It's always BK.
Somebody's always got to have himself first. Am I right?
It's ridiculous.
BK and Ferrario. At least I got all caps.
One of my buddies recently said if he was you, he would sue.
Is he a lawyer? Because I might give him a buzz.
He is, actually.
All right, tell him to hit me up. Tell him to hit me up.
101 ESPN app is also where you can go to find the podcast. It is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The Fast Lane has you coming up today at 2 o'clock. We were able to speak today with Derrick Goold and Jeremy Rutherford. All of that on the podcast page later on this afternoon. Alex, the Blues lost last night. It sure feels as though maybe that wasn't the actual end point, but it was the beginning of the end for their NHL playoff aspirations. What did you make of the loss in San Jose?
It's a dagger. I mean, like, I'm not going to act as if they're officially eliminated because they can still make the playoffs because guess what? If the other teams around them continue to lose, then it keeps the Blues in an ideal position. But to me, your margin of error is now slimmer than what it was. Like, you, to me, cannot lose more than one more game the rest of the way, which means you're going to have to find a way to beat Colorado at least once. You're going to have to beat Pittsburgh and Minnesota and Utah and Winnipeg on top of LA on Wednesday. So I'll be fascinated to see what they look like tomorrow, but it's definitely a gut punch to what they were hoping to accomplish.
And it hurts even more because it was two things that have really been carrying you up to this point to get back into the playoff picture that really let you down last night. The penalty kill ends up giving up 3 goals. They were top 5 in the NHL going into last night.
They were number one. They were number one in the Olympic break.
And then add on top of it, it was only 1 goal, but it ended up being the goal that was the backbreaker. Mm-hmm. Joel Hofer's been the guy that's been carrying you through this all along, and he gives up one that he would love to have back there in the final 30 seconds, and boom, you walk out of the arena with 0 points.
It's brutal. Absolutely brutal loss. You're now 5th in the NHL draft standings right now as well. That, to me, is the silver lining. If the Blues do fall apart down the stretch here, we'll see what happens, but there's still a chance you end up at the top 5 overall selection, which is not the worst thing for this team. You know, you were able to show, hey, we've got a little something here. Snuggerud has been really good. Holloway, even last night, was awesome. Robert Thomas has really upped his game lately. So you've got things that have been encouraging signs. It was just too little too late. Yeah. Much like in that game. It took too long to get going, and for the season, they just did not get started in the right direction quick enough. Blues off tonight, back in action tomorrow against the Kings. On the Cardinals side of things, it is Andre Palante on the mounds tonight against the New York Mets. Last night did not go well for the Cardinals. At least it was quick, though. Alex, how do you think tonight will go for them against Kodai Senga?
I don't think it will go very well. I think this one might be quick also, and I think we might start to fall into the, this is kind of what the offense is going to be. I'll be fascinated with the pitching, though, with Andre Palante.
I think they win tonight. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's like 8-6 because Senga was a guy that kind of lost his way midway through the year last year. People forget he got optioned by the Mets. So I think it's going to be a high scoring. It didn't go through waivers. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think they win 8-6 tonight.
I think they lose not a big deal. By a final score of 5-2. We'll break that thing down for you tomorrow here on BK and Ferrario. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Fastlane next here on 101 ESPN.